the finish at La Plagne. Still 3,250 meters of climbing. It is the first Tour de France ever to have 5 all-category summit finishes. Truly brutal.
كبرات تخطاتلتي ጨወታ እንዳጀመረ እዩ ዘሎ ናይ ሎማዓንቲ ጨወታ ዝበዝሕ ኣብ ዓቐበታት ዝበዝሖ ኮይኑ ነቶም ናይ ጂሲ ራይደርስ ንግዜ ዝወዳደሩ ንዓም ዝምችእ ኮይኑ ኣብ ማእከል ሓንቲ ናይ ኢንተርሚዲየት ናይ ነጥቢ ውድድር ኣላ ሆፍሊ ኣንዳ 50 ንኸውን ቢንያም
Well, we just got to La Plagne, the last real climb of this Tour de France. Perhaps the last chance for riders that want to change something in the GC.
La clasificación general. Acabamos de pasar la pancarta de 15 kilómetros.
Well, just got past the 15k to go sign. We get to the steepest gradients. The riders in the GC that want to change. Something they should really take advantage of these first 7 to 8 kilometers. In the climb.
8 kilómetros del puerto. ¿Ya estamos? En los últimos 2
kilómetros. Well, we're now on the final 2 kilometers. You can feel the cooler air. We're now at around 2,000 meters of altitude, and on the last slopes, it's not as tough to climb here.
Eso sí, esto no tiene una gran dureza. Llegamos a la cima de la plancha.
Well, we're at the summit of La Plagne, a deceiving climb, and there's one thing that needs to be taken into account. It's the last mountain stage, the last summit finish, a really short stage, but it has quite a lot of elevation gain. It's a climb where the toughest sections come early on, but that could also be dangerous, because if you run out of energy and have a crisis in the final section, where it's actually easier and faster, you could end up losing a lot of time. So we'll have to wait and see what the riders have to offer. Well, we are all set in preparation for this final mountain stage. Albertville hosting today's stage, and they are out in force. Not as many points on offer for the polka dot jersey as were initially expected. And as a consequence, Tadej Pogacar, who is the man who actually leads that particular category, so will be countdown for the rock that he can seal it. Florian Leibowitz in the white jersey. All out here in Albertville. The Olympic plane from the 92 Winter Olympics that took place here in Albertville. We're going to head down to the start to hear the opinions of Anders and Matt and see what they think is going to happen on today's changed stage.
Tour de France from Albertville to La Plagne, and Matt Stevens. Pogacar is in the yellow jersey. Vingegaard looks confident and secured in the second spot.
Yep.
But the podium, the last spot on the podium, it looks wide open, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that's where the real intrigue is. That's where there's definitely going to be a battle now. There's like 21 seconds between Oscar Onley in fourth, a 22-year-old just behind Lipowitz. I don't think Lipowitz actually cracked. I just think he got it wrong yesterday. But I think with this short stage, still 2 all-category climbs, it's going to be a real battle. I think we're going to see riders warming up on the rollers. It's going to be really intense. And I think Oscar Onley is going to throw absolutely everything at it today. So I think arguably the most exciting part of the race could be that battle for the final podium spot.
And obviously, Red Bull, Bora and Stroll, they have an advantage with Primož Roglič in the fifth spot. Could we see Primož going early today and try to make pressure on Onley?
Yeah, I think because there was a little bit of criticism about the way the Bora rode yesterday. Did Primož ride for himself? Was the plan, okay, it's going to be who's got the strongest legs, because Lipowitz was exposed on his own, but then of course he went up the road. So that's going to be difficult to say, but I think they haven't got much out of this race so far, but a third place on the podium is massively important. So I think they'll be telling Primož to actually stay and look after Lipowitz, because they cannot afford to lose that, but they are going to come under pressure today. I'm expecting a very explosive, short, yet not very sweet race.
Explosive and short. But I think I'd emphasize the explosive. Absolutely no doubt about it. The 40 more of the sides that we will go past, there will be some that won't be visited today due to the change in today's stage. The nerves will be high. Albertville, often used on the Tour de France. Back in 2019, of course, Vincenzo Nibali won at Val Thorens, leaving from Albertville after what had been a pretty unsuccessful Tour de France for the Italian. We are in the Savoie. Home of raclette. But also France's spiritual home of winter sport as well. Victor Campenaerts sits ready. certainly going to be a very interesting day as far as
ክቡራት ተኸታተልቲ ንቕልሎም ፀወታ ጀሚሮም ኣለዉ ንቅሩብ ክሬሚታት መርሰኒ ምስከዱ ብድሕሪኡ እቲ ናይ ብሓቂ ፀወታ ክጅምርዎ እዮም ማለት እዩ ኦፊሻል የማይኮን ፀወታ ተጀሚሩ ኣሎ ማለት እዩ
Well, with only Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard picked yesterday, standings didn't really change very much. Jens will have some regrets because he hesitated on Ben O'Connor at one point. Too bad for Jens. Moreno Moser. I think today Tadej Pogacar wants to win the stage, but I can't pick him, so my pick is Jonas Vingegaard. Stage yesterday was quite strange. Breakaway managed to make it all the way against all the odds, and I think today, it'll be different.
Tadej Pogacar will win stage 22. La Plagne. I think Tadej is hungry for a new win. It's been a while since he was on the top of the podium with a medal on as a stage winner. So Poggy for today, looking at the standings in this game, it's not looking super great for me, but I'm very happy to see Carl Fredrik Hagen, a Norwegian, in the lead. Remember, Denmark used to rule over Norway once. So go on the Vikings, Carl Fredrik. I wake up every morning smiling when I see Yip van den Bos in the end of this predictor game. Good job, Yip.
The last
mountain stage of this Tour de France will be won, of course, by the man in yellow himself, Tadej Pogacar. He's already gifted wins on Super-Bagnères, Mont Ventoux and Col de la Loze, but that won't happen today. He will show one final time how strong he is. I'm going home because tomorrow the Tour de France Femme will start, so all the best from Genève Airport. And no real surprise, is there, as no other picks apart from the two favourites.
ዝበዝሕ ለማዓንቲ ፀወታ ዕወተላ ዝግመት ዘሎ ናይ ቴዲ ፖጋቻር እዩ of course ናይ ዓበይቲ ምስተዓቐበ ምዃኑ ንሱ ናብ ፅቡቅ ኮንዲሽን ስለ ዘሎ hopefully ንሱ ክግመት ናይ ለማዓንትስ
a victory for one of the two big guns today in what is expected to be a very fast and a very frenetic stage.
ናይ ለማዓንቲ ናይ ብሓቂ ከቢድን ኣሸጋርን ውድድር ይኸውን hopefully ቢንያም ሰላም ጀሚሩ ሰላም ኩሉ
there will be climbing almost immediately. Jonathan Milan will be looking to see if he can do what he did yesterday, which is to grab the 20 points at the intermediate sprint and then sit back in the gruppetto and make his way along. Let's go and hear now from Ralph Oldag and what he sees as today's main aims.
Ralph Oldag, one final day in the mountains, a shorter stage than initially planned. How do you defend this third place with Florian Lipowitz and, of course, that white jersey?
Good question. Depends on our competitors. I mean, the direct one is Oscar Only, who's riding a fantastic race. Yesterday, better than ever. Change of emotion yesterday for us in the race. It looked really, really brilliant for us for a moment. Then it turned into looking not so good anymore. So we take the fight on, and he's our direct competitor, and let's see what we can do. Because remember, we're not only third, we're also still fifth, and that still gives us opportunities.
So what is Primož's role today then? He's fifth. He can potentially make it. You never know on a shorter stage. What's his role today with Florian Lipowitz?
Well, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, as Primož would say. No, it gives us tactical, flexibility, and I think we really look into that to say, why not trying to be in a break, and that might open a chance for a stage victory, but also would put pressure on the competitors.
Do you think this shorter stage actually suits and favours both Florian and Primož far better than their rivals?
It's super hard to judge. I think in general, Lippo is very consistent in his efforts, so I wouldn't really worry if it would be the original stage. Talking about recovery from yesterday, super hard day for him. Maybe the shorter stage does a little bit good to him on this one, but I wouldn't worry about the length of the stage. It's super hard. It's going to be very intense, so it remains the same.
Thanks a lot, Ralph.
Thank you.
Well, you're always going to get honesty. What will Matteo Jorgensen's role be today?
ጾታን ክጅምር ሓደ 6 ኪሎ ሜትር ተሪፉ ኣሎ
for Lidl track.
of course لما عند حجي بريك قوي كنرينا زعما متعاوت كنرينا
Aim for the start of today's stage.
حساب تاكيدهم ما كنا موضوع تاع
as best you
عمس
can.
تيري بوكاتشا هم دول عمس لزفالتو
The weather conditions are cooler, and they certainly will be cooler when you head up to the high altitude that the riders will go to today. Climbing almost immediately.
لا لما أنت مستي
Alpine peaks sit in the clouds.
The
crowds out in force once again. UAE team Emirates yesterday were like a sponge. Tadej Pogacar like a sponge, just soaked up all of that pressure thrown at them by Team Visma Lease Bike. The Campanarts, he did his job. Sterling fashion. Sepp Kuss, Matteo Jorgensen, both tried so hard, but there was not one crack in the armour of Tadej Pogacar, and in the end, once again, right at the end, he stole a march and picked up some extra seconds over his main rival, Jonas Vingegaard. Tom Schuich, he's been in fine humour throughout this tour. Lots of renditions of Johnny's on Fire. As Jonathan Milan has cemented his place in that green jersey, but he'll want to make it more certain today. As for this man, well, it's today for Tadej. I'm sure he's convinced it will be. Well, it was going to be a short stage anyway, just 129.9 kilometres, and the introduction of these short, sharp, brutal days they've really seen a change in the racing. Really exciting racing with these sorts of stages, and once again, you look at this and think, it's going to be a blockbuster day. Some riders will be dreading it. Look at the amount of gels on board there. Alex Boudin. Ready. This is right up alongside the car. Simmons sitting just to the left of Tom Schuich. Primoz Roglic went all in yesterday. How's he recovered today?
I should just put this also at the riding time.
So ahead of this last stage, mountains, let's take a look at who is going to be in which jersey today. So Tadej Pogacar in yellow, Jonas Vingegaard second in the mountains category, will be wearing the maillot à pois. And then we have Jonathan Milan in green and Florian Lipovitz with a 21-second lead over Oscar Onley in the white jersey. That battle for the bottom step of the podium and the white jersey, one of the most intriguing heading into this final mountain stage of the 2025 Tour de France. As we head up towards kilometre zero, it's time to go and join our commentary team of Brian Smith and Declan Quigley.
Thanks, Jonathan. We're really looking forward to this one. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Final opportunity potentially for the general classification contenders to upend things a little bit. The climbers out of GC will also be relishing a final opportunity. Or is it a final opportunity? Of course, speaking to Jonas Vingegaard ahead of the stage today, he was suggesting that tomorrow could also offer opportunities to close that significant gap, 4:26 between Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard. And the big scrap as well. We're really interested to see whether Oscar Onley can close that 22-second deficit to Florian Leibowitz, leap up onto the podium and go for that white jersey. So, approaching kilometre zero, and the 19th stage of Tour de France 2025 is underway. A somewhat truncated distance already billed as the shortest road racing stage of Tour de France 25. It's that and more now, isn't it? Down to less than 100 kilometres, 93.5 kilometres of racing. They've extended the time cut because, almost counterintuitively, these are the days that the sprinters really fear. It's nothing but climbing. It's absolutely flat out. And we are going to see a sustained fight. Potentially, it could be a little bit controlled through to the intermediate sprint coming up after 12 kilometres. And after that, I think the phony war will be completed and get underway proper to try to create something a little bit special. And Smith's alongside, rubbing his hands with glee, relishing it, and looking forward perhaps to seeing Oscar Onley bid for a podium position.
Oh, 100%. Look, I said the other day there that Florian Leibowitz, what a revelation he's been in this race. Current white Jim Mountain. So we've had to wait 41 years. By the looks of things, Oscar Onley at least is going to equal that, but potentially this, if he manages to get those 22 seconds back, he's going to go for it. He's not the strongest of teams, but he was super yesterday.
The man late of Kelso Wheelers and now very much part of the Picnic Post NL squad spoke to us just ahead of the start today to get his thoughts on this bid for glory.
Oscar, 22 seconds from the podium. How do you feel before this last mountain stage?
Yeah, I mean it's not such a big gap, but it's still a few seconds that you need to close, and it's we're quite equal, I would say. He's been stronger some stages and I've been stronger other days. But yeah, a lot can happen today, so I'm looking forward to it.
These 22 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, if I feel good, then I'll it's also about being smart about how I do it as well, and not just attacking for the sake of it, as really measuring my effort and making every effort count.
You know the climbs of today, for example, the Col du Pré, which is maybe one of the hardest climb of this Tour de France?
No, I've never done any of these roads, but I had a nice message from Roman this morning, and obviously he knows all these roads, and he told me a lot of good information about the stage, so that'll help.
You look confident.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling good still. Well, as good as you can be in the third week of a Grand Tour, but no, I'm looking forward to it.
Sure, good luck. Thank you, Oscar.
Oscar Onley now within 22 seconds of that podium would be an historic first podium finish for a Scotsman in Tour de France history. 22 seconds, having been 2 minutes and 1 second down on Florian Leibowitz yesterday. 3 climbs across the balance of today. On today's truncated stage, of course, the discovery of an outbreak of contagious nodular dermatitis affecting cattle in a herd located in the Col de Cessis region of this particular stage resulted in a culling of the herd. It's a very, very difficult moment for everyone involved in agriculture and farming in France, and just the Tour de France organisers believed that a little bit of sensitivity was required, and that it was right really to bypass that particular match pass. As a result, it's reduced the distance. Still, though, it's a very demanding stage that offers plenty of opportunity. Both of the organic climbs that were billed are still part of this particular stage. Called the Pré. We'll start that 6.5 kilometres of the day remaining, which is not that long at all, really. We'll be up and over the sprint and onto the foothills of that climb in no time at all. Then we've got short descent,
like
followed by the short climb of Cormet de Roselin. And then on to La Plagne, 5th time in Tour de France history.
And what is La Plagne for today?
Well, and we're going to get into it, but Oscar Onley has to attack. I mean, he has to find that 22 seconds. It's not going to be easy. I mean, presumably Florian Leibowitz is suitably chastened by his efforts yesterday and might adopt a slightly different strategy today.
Yeah, I thought they made a big mistake yesterday, Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe, but you know, even looking at the other team's tactics, but we'll come to that in time.
Inside 90 to go, heading to the sprint. Setting a steady tempo. It's sort of a steady rise, isn't it, throughout that 12 kilometres to the intermediate sprint. Nobody's chancing an attack here. That's because everybody knows that Jonathan Milan wants to copper fasten his situation in the green jersey. But Bruno Armorai, who was absolutely fabulous yesterday and in previous days, he's been a fabulous addition indeed to the Cathlon AG2 Le Mondial squad. Did a great job for Felix Gal a couple of days ago, and he's looks like he's suffering a little bit at the back. I think everyone's feeling sore legs today, and Tom Squinch doing a really solid job on the front for Jonathan Milan. But talking about Oscar Onley's options, Brian, it's, you know, he's got to find that 22 seconds. The Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad, do you reckon that they made a little bit of an error, that it was a little bit of impetuosity by Florian Leibowitz that he paid for on the final climb yesterday?
I did. What the efforts you make in the valley, you pay for in the climb. That was always something that I told any riders that I was riding with, and looking after, of course. You know, for the Ben O'Connor situation, they had to make the effort to get the time on there and suffer up the final climb. But for a lot of the GC contenders, that was a big mistake in my book, what they allowed them to do, because the thing is, you'd already been a huge effort to come back to them, and then he attacks them. So all that effort, it was no surprise that I saw him looked fatigued in that final climb, because I knew how hard the Col de la Loze was in the end. And the flip side of things, Oscar Onley was lucky. He was lucky that
played out perfectly for him.
Yeah, at one stage in the Madeleine, the way things happened, and I'll just go through the Visma Leasebike. They believed that Vingegaard could drop Pogacar on the Madeleine. I'm just going to put that out there. The way they rode, how hard they rode, they thought that they could drop. They've got one rider in front. They would have preferred to have two riders in front, but they had one rider in front. But they thought that Vingegaard could drop him in the Madeleine, and then he could join up. So that whole plan never happened, and then it was just lockdown. Great opportunity for Ben O'Connor and Rubio to go. Jorgensen went with them, and that was purely for potentially the stage. Going with that attack, he was going to be used when he came back, and he wasn't. So yeah, that was their plan, Visma Leasebike. But for Oscar Onley, the race came back to him, and then he was good. Like I said at the start of the day, he preferred that steep climb towards the end.
Looks like to be okay.
Right, so that's an indication of, because I thought this as well, with a short stage, they all warmed up in the rollers. You warm up in the rollers, you know that you're going to be in a quick start, and with it going slightly uphill here, it's not easy. And I think the job, if you notice from Captain America there, Quinn Simmons, he went quite hard initially, and then it's settled down now. So he went quite hard, the early attacks, harder than you'd normally do. It was a message to say, look, don't try anything. So that's what that message was about.
It's Grupo Campado. The peloton is complete at the moment. 161 riders in this 19th stage, final stage in the Alps of Tour de France. We're heading towards Paris at the weekend, and it's control at the front of the peloton from the Lidl Trek squad. They've got their man Jonathan Milan, fourth in line here, fifth in line indeed. He's got 4 teammates in front of him, 4 very strong teammates indeed, and all of the potential early attackers are aware of how committed Milan is to getting the 20 points maximum for that green jersey competition at this intermediate sprint coming up after 12k. So they think, well, there's no point attacking. It'll be utterly futile. The Lidl Trek squad are going to stomp all over anything. So therefore, nobody attacks at this moment. But it's all going to change in about 5 kilometres.
Yes, but you can attack here. It's not
You're
going.
entitled to.
Yeah, it's not going. It's not going super fast at the moment. They've cranked it back a little bit. Initially, you go out there and ride hard, and you think, yeah, I'm not going to do anything. Like I said just a moment ago, they're warming up in the rollers, expecting it to be quite an active start, which means that they thought maybe something would happen straight away. Everybody knew that Lidl Trek were going to do this, but at the same time, the race, you can race if you want. There's no kind of stopping that. But I think off the back of Oscar Onley's interview there, it goes to show you that the team did not think that he was going to be anywhere near the podium. The fact that he had not come and looked at these kind of couple of stages, these climbs, he's never ridden up these climbs.
Yeah, he's been the revelation, hasn't he, of Tour de France 25. He's been the standout.
But so is Lipovic as well for me. Even Stevens.
Yeah.
Even Stevens, both of them. And you heard from the interview that, yeah, he reckons that they're pretty even. He's had better days, Lipovic, and Oscar has had better days and things like that. So, they're pretty even, which is, brilliant for Germany and Britain. So, it was just a surprise that they hasn't even looked at these. So it just goes to show you that the reason why they didn't come here and look at it is because they didn't believe he'd be in that position.
Florian Lipovic has recovered after his efforts yesterday. Lost a lot of time to Oscar Onley. Resets, go again. We caught up with him just before the stage.
Florian, a difficult day for you yesterday. Was it more tactical, or would you think it was just the legs? So what's your explanation?
I tried something, and if you don't try, you will never win. So yesterday I lost, but it's also part of the game, I think. It's my first tour, so I want to also enjoy it a bit, and today is a new day. I think, I'm still on 3rd place, and I hope I recover good, and we see today will be short and super hard, and in the end you can just always do your best, and then you have to live with the result you get.
It's going to be a hard day today again, very intense racing. What's the role of Primoz today? Is he going to be an assistant to you or an option to maybe go for the podium?
Yeah, I mean, we are both not far from each other, so for sure he will. Yeah, we have to see how the race is going, also how Jumbo and where he is racing. But I think we also need to put some pressure on Oscar, and we see how Primoz is. But I think he showed yesterday good legs, and we see today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a second indication from the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad that Primoz Roglic may well be used at some stage today as an attacking option. He currently sits in 5th position. He's 2 minutes and 26 seconds behind Oscar Onley. That's dangerously close if Roglic goes raining on one of these 3 tough climbs today, both of which are at ore category level, amongst the toughest climbs. This is, of course, the 100th Tour de France stage that finishes on an ore category climb.
Yeah, just looking at that, I think listening to old Ralph Ardagh there, and I've worked with Ralph, and I would put Roglic in a breakaway today like yesterday. But the only problem is Roglic wants to win this stage. He wants to win, and before the end of the tour, he wants to win. He tried to win yesterday, and unfortunately.
But if he tries to win, then Oscar Onley's team, Pick and Post, now have to try to respond in some way, and they didn't look all that strong in the Col de la Madeleine yesterday, did they?
No, but I think if the breakaway goes, UAE will control the stage, and it will all come down to the final climb of La Plana. And I think for Oscar Onley and Picnic Post NL, I think it'll be important for them just to not go with it, maybe not chase it, but just make sure you look after Oscar Onley, because if UAE take it up, which I think they will today, they want to win the stage with Pogačar.
But the wins have dried up a little bit for Pogačar, haven't they? I mean, he's only won 4 stages, but they did all come before the Alps.
Yeah, they did. Look, 100% he wants to win today. Vingegaard, well, I don't think we'll see. I hope he tries again, and the penalty. I thought we could have a carbon copy of what happened yesterday.
Chance to focus on the mountains.
Well, he did. That's why I pointed out yesterday. He made a little an effort to take the maximum point. So he's in the jersey today. At least he's going to be
on behalf of Pogacar.
Yeah, he's in the jersey today, and I think he'll want to maybe kind of own that jersey. But I think also it's another sultan. By the way, I was trying to get Matt Winston to get all Bravehearted up and face painted and things like that. I've just did I messaged him last night, he was laughing about it, things like that. But Emily Bramier, who's the communications manager of the team, they have put a salt tire up above in the bus when they walk out. You know, like the football teams, they always like, you know, part the emblem of the club and things like that. So on the way out of the bus, there's a Scottish sultan on the way out. But they didn't want to put face paint on and go all Mel Gibson and go out there, and
it's for Sunday, is it?
You know, do it. So yeah, it's a big day, but yeah, Jumbo Visma Lisa Bike, they could try what they did yesterday, but they failed. I think potentially, if I was Visma Lisa Bike, and I know that Vingegaard has said that it's still not over, but I think today, try and get the Mountains jersey of right and try and win the stage. And I think you can only do that on the final climb as well. Just go up against Pogacar and not attack him to get rid of him like he's been trying to do, but just settle down and to
ride him off his wheel.
Well, he's never going to be able to do that. I think the only way he can do it is to wait to the end and try at some point.
So a few seconds here, a few seconds there. Well, he's running out of stages then to win the race.
No. What I'm saying is, I think he has to forget about trying to win the Tour de France.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think 4.5 minutes is too much. And what I saw yesterday, Pogacar's just equal to him.
He would like a stage win, though, doesn't
Yes, that's what
just one for the team so far.
Look at trying to win the stage today. Just look at that. Concentrate on that. The Mountains points and concentrate and maybe trying to win the stage today. But he's not going to win the stage if he goes from distance. And he drags Pogacar, La Plana, if he goes from 5Ks to go and just drags, that's not going to happen. So I really do think that there's an opportunity to try and get that stage win today for him.
The other thing, there's only 1-2 bike races this year. They were both at the Tour of Algarve, which is not exactly the sort of the pinnacle point, although we don't want to be critical of a really nice race early in the season, but it's sort of relatively slim pickings for a rider of his stature and status in the sport. By contrast, 15 wins so far for Tadej Pogacar. He's won 4 stages of Tour de France. He's all dominant, and now we're winding up for the sprint.
Just before we get to the sprint, Roglic has been looked after towards the front, so he'll be over there. Look, there's 2 ways of looking after high. Roglic goes, you're all over him like a rash, but I just think let them play that card, because I don't think it'll work today. You see Roglic on the right hand side with the blue shorts.
Lee will look perhaps to Paris as an opportunity to improve on his best finishing position of 3rd in this year's Tour de France. The lotto man is going to leave it up to the man in the green jersey to scoop the top points. All looks pretty controlled and organised at the moment. Miniam Girmay as well is also in position, currently sits 3rd in this particular category. No sign of Tadej Pogacar, as you would expect.
Milan atki'lu ra'yo min forza binay
forza binay and staying close, and it was pretty much a carbon copy of yesterday's sprint, wasn't it?
Abrahamsen coming over there in 5th place. Just watch what's happening now, the little track right. There's another team there, Movistar, losing Enric Mas yesterday. They almost had 5 riders at the front of the race yesterday, so there'll be another team that want to grab something. But for the moment anyway, you can see that there's a few riders towards the front with intent. But let's see what happens next.
Job down for Jonathan Milan further extends his advantage in the competition. He's 75 points ahead of Tadej Pogacar in 2nd place, starting that particular sprint. He's now 95 points clear. It's hard to see that Jonathan Milan won't collect green in Paris, the way things are going. But you never know. You've got to make it to Paris first, and he knows that his next job is to try and stay inside the time cut today. Generous time cut of 21%, but it's a short stage, and well, we can talk about that a little bit later on, how it seems counterintuitive, but actually these are the stages that the sprinters really, really fear. And it looked as if Milan maybe just thinking he could just make a little bit of slippage room by staying clear for a little while after the sprint. Looked as if he was going to persevere with that for a little while.
Yeah, I think Abrahamson, he's trying to sneak away here. A bit of a kind of tailwind at the start. Just talking about the sprinters, they do have an extended hours delay today has been increased.
21%, yeah. It was. I mean, it's basically complicated stuff, but it's basically depending on the average speed of the stage. It's everything between 11 and 19%, and then they added on another 2% for this being a particularly short and demanding stage to make the time cut. And then before the start of the stage, the organisers said, forget all that percentages of the different average speeds. We'll just make it 21%, which was the sort of, you know, the maximum average speed and the maximum time cut delay. So it's they've made it as easy as possible for the riders to make it through to complete this final appointment in the Alps, after which they ought to be able to make it to Paris after that. This is what we have in prospect today. 2 climbs in quick succession. Col de Pré, followed by the Cormet de Roselin. The Or category climb coming, penultimate one of this year's Tour de France, includes many demanding north of 8% stretches in it. Fully 12.5 kilometres in length, 12.6 to be precise, 7.7%. And plenty of stretches into double figures on the percentage. And then there's a very short descent of just a couple of kilometres. And then we get on to the with a little sort of race through a sort of a plateau section onto the Cormet de Roselin. It's billed as a second category climb. 5.9 kilometres at 6.3%. Again, tricky, demanding. It's really one climb broken up into 2, isn't it?
Yeah, just on the back of Jonathan Milan just getting that maximum points and intermediate sprint. And there is a press release on about the new team structure of that team, and Lido, the company, buying into it. So it will evolve as a Lido Trek kind of joint team. So the sponsor is actually kind of buying into the team, which
it's not the first time that's happened this year. Decathlon, of course, you know, taking on ownership of the Decathlon AG Tour Le Mondial squad. A major shift, actually, and it is almost a seismic shift in French cycling structure and ownership.
Yeah, so yeah, Decathlon have bought the. I think they own the Decathlon team, but this is a joint venture between. Because Trek kind of founded the team, and they've got a management company looking after it, and now Lido have kind of bought into the team as well instead of a sponsor, which means that I think the longevity of the team is pretty solid. There's a few teams in the race we've talked about that there's potential a merger between Intermarché and Lotto. Arkea B&B Hotels doesn't sound as if they've got a sponsor of that one. Decathlon have increased their sponsorship, and now we're getting Lido Trek, the buy-in from Lido. So that's just breaking at the moment. So there's a few teams looking good against the kind of super teams we've got, but we've still got a couple of teams that are still struggling.
Still struggling at all at the moment is Jonas Abrahamson. I think he'd like a little bit more than the 12 seconds he's got right now, but needs an aero bike at the moment, doesn't he? That Ridley with its extended head tube. It's aero profile behind. It's sort of exaggerated, isn't it? It's very familiar and very distinctive, I think is probably the phrase. And absolutely ideal for a big powerhouse rider like Jonas Abrahamson to try and fend off the peloton for a little while. Back in his box now, Jonathan Milan looking for friends as the climb looms. There's the 20 points out of the 20 points on the finish line. This is coefficient 5 stage in Tour de France turns. That means it's incredibly hilly and it's incredibly short. We're trying to explain to the uninitiated why a short stage would cause greater fear and trepidation for a sprinter than a very long stage in the mountains.
Because it's a percent of the time. So the shorter the stage, the percentage of the time is greater. So most of the sprinters in this, especially with a climb at the start, they'll get dropped. As soon as we start going up this climb, they'll get dropped in the Col de Pré. So then they're pretty much riding for the whole of the stage, pretty much in the Gruppetto. And
there's basically a greater percentage of this short stage is spent going uphill than would be the case in a 200, 220, 230 kilometer stage in the mountains. And it's on the descents and on the valley roads that the sprinters can limit their losses. They can offset to a certain extent everything that they've lost going uphill. And with such a compressed stage, there's less of that opportunity to offset. So therefore, they're facing the mountain goats and it's going to be potentially a very long, short stage for them. If you understand.
Climb at the start of any tour stage worries the sprinters because they get dropped in that and they have to ride the whole stage and they have to stay within the time limit. Looks like the boy from Albertville on the attack.
Alex Baudin, up front yesterday on the attack of the F Education Easy Post squad. He's had a pretty good Tour de France. He was involved in assisting Ben Healy to take that glorious stage victory on stage 6, and we'll see whether Alex Baudin from Albertville.
Is that Roglic there in 6th place?
Well, Primož Roglic, about whom much was discussed and anticipated ahead of this particular stage, and Julian Alaphilippe as well wants to try and spring something a little bit special for the Tudor Pro Cycling squad. They've got a best finish from Alaphilippe, I believe, of 3rd place.
Yeah, they've got Michael Storer there. So you got Alaphilippe, Storer, Baudin, Roglic, Rubio is there. Trying to see the total energies right there. Castrillo is getting involved now. So a couple from Movistar. No real surprise there. They came up a little bit short yesterday. Team and Adams as well. Gigas as well. Is this the twins at the front here?
Yeah, great day yesterday after his difficulties the previous days. Some of the usual suspects starting to assemble. It's often the way as we go deep into the Tour de France.
من عقبت ولا تعصب حد اثنين متر تلفون أمودة كان إذا عقبت زي بدحري حيات كل
Yeah, you see Alaphilippe just kind of backing out this one, and then we see the front of the peloton and just Elisabeth there.
You know what a thrill this is. He made sure he was in front coming to that corner. He knew all about that. You could be quite sure. What a proud moment.
That's now. What a grimace.
That's a thrill. And Primož Roglic now hits the front, 5th overall, remember. He's got 2:26 to get on terms with Oscar Onley. He's a threat now. Basically, he's a tactical card being played by the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad in order to protect Florian Leibowitz.
This is interesting. This is the sprinters group, or some of the sprinters going out the back there, and Marc Soler is one of them.
Marc Soler not available, potentially, to assist Tadej Pogačar in this final Alpine assault. They'll have wanted all hands to the pump.
Sepp Kuss
to maintain... Sepp Kuss going out the back?
Yeah. No, Sepp Kuss in that second group. So they sent Sepp Kuss across, and also it looked like Victor Campenaerts.
Climbing like an ibex is Victor Campenaerts. Alexander Delettre, it is, I think, for the Total Energy squad, is hit the front as well. Superb job being done by the young Frenchman. 58th overall.
Just looking, there's more riders coming across here. I think, by the looks of things, UAE team Emirates just came to the front and setting a tempo now, but Pogačar has decided to follow Vingegaard. I don't think he'll give up, but... And he said he's not going to give up. He's going to go do what he can. But all the GC contenders are there. Tim Wellens just coming up to the front to just try and assume a little bit of control here. They probably don't want the likes of Sepp Kuss and Victor Campanarts to go in that group, the kind of satellite riders.
For the yellow jersey, I mean, there's just a stream of riders overtaking him. If this was earlier in the race, he might be a little bit concerned, but he's just got such a commanding lead on general classification. It's 4:26 back to Vingegaard. It's 11:01 back to Lipovic, 11:23, then 12:49. The top 10 are covered by over half an hour. It's absolutely massive.
Jorgensen is just at the back of the group in front there, but this is Marc Soler. This is not good for Marc Soler here. But Jorgensen is just not, he's struggling a little bit, just close the gap to the back of the peloton. So this is the group echo just forming at the moment.
Tough day for those riders to try and hang on.
Valentin Parapantra is also in this group. Famous win in Vol 2.
Could he back it up? Make it a second stage success for France. It's a fairly sizable group now starting to emerge from the pack, but still the advantage is a slim one, very much on this climb now.
Yeah, Lenny Martinez is also in this group as well, chasing those mountain points. And lucky boy.
Let's talk about Lenny Martinez. He copped a penalty yesterday. Significant Swiss francs fine, some UCI points, but more particularly, he lost 8 points in his mountains classification for that thing that you've been pointing out for days. In all fairness to you, Brian, he was just getting one sticky bottle after another, sticky gel, Velcro gel, call it what you will. I mean, and it was blatant, wasn't it? Because he literally wouldn't take the bottle. He'd put the bottle back in the car and throw it away. He wouldn't take the gel or throw it back into them. And it was just simply so that he would get a boost. He would get carried up the hill by the car.
I know all the tricks of the trades. I've been in the cars. I know what they do. And that was as close to you get to holding on to the car. So what's stopping that? So you've got a bottle. You hold on to that bottle, and the car accelerates. That's just like holding on to the car. Just because he physically isn't holding on to the car, and then he takes it, throws it away, takes a gel, throws it away. The same happened, right? Because that was kind of multiple times. I think that's why they came down on him. The same happened in Voikelin in the final climb yesterday, where he takes the bottle, takes the boost. You can see the arm going back of the sports director. Right? It's not a case of when Steve Cummings goes up and gives something to Ben O'Connor. He's got a straight arm, gives it to him, he takes it.
No advantage. It was very clear.
Yeah.
I mean, they were being careful because
you have to be.
Ben O'Connor was going for stage honours.
When you notice the bottle coming out and the sports director's arm going back, that's because he's accelerating.
Yeah.
So that was blatant, and he did it, and like 2 or 3 times at the time, and rightly so. He was very lucky not to be disqualified, and he got docked 8 points in the King of the Mountains. He's chasing them again today. But Voikelin yesterday took the bottle, one bottle, took a turbo bottle, a sticky bottle, and threw it away. He got fined for that, but no points deducted or no time penalty at all. You cannot do that, and that's what the UCI have to look at. There is times where it's blatant, right? And even in races where riders will push off the car as well. So they have to find a way of how do you hand up a gel or a bottle without giving any help. And I think from yesterday's video footage, you look at what Steve Cummings did. Yeah. It's just a straight arm give it. It's a fraction of a second. Takes it. If there's any way of holding that bottle or acceleration or arm movement and things like that, it should not be allowed.
He was certainly very fortunate, was Lenny Martinez, not potentially to have copped a bigger penalty. It's probably put him out of the bid for the mountains competition. When we see that one is still to run, and Jonas Vingegaard, of course, is wearing he's wearing the polka dot jersey today. Jorgensen, the other rider who's struggling with after his heroics yesterday. Legs a bit tender, tough to start on a hill, isn't it?
Well, Marc Soler is fighting. He knows that he has to try and kind of stay. He's got some work to do later on, finding it difficult getting Thomas over on the right-hand side. But also, just at the back in this group as well, is Tiege Benoot. So a lot of the top teams, GC teams, are losing some of their riders.
Barguil just in front as well. Warren Barguil I just spotted coming out, and he is needed today. For Oscar Onley, he needs all the climbing and all the picnic post NL riders that he can possibly have around him. But this is just such a hellish start, isn't it, on a big climb like this? And you already see Julian Alaphilippe flapping around at the back of this group after being up front, investing in an attack. Perhaps potentially just trying to propel Michael Storer into a strong situation. Storer is still up here. Julian Alaphilippe now further back. Sepkus is the most obvious representative of the big GC teams.
See, Tim Wellens is just setting a tempo. He doesn't want this to happen. I don't think this. You can try, and I hope he does. I hope Vingegaard does try, but I just can't see him getting rid of. It doesn't matter how many satellite riders he puts in front. I just really can't see that. The reason why Tim Wellens is riding and they want to keep this close is purely because this is going to turn into a stage where they want Pogačar to ride, and that's where the tactic there of Red Bull, it's not going to work today with Roglic because Pogačar wants to win the stage.
Ash still 8k to the top of this first of three hills today. Average speed sparking 36.3, doesn't sound that exciting compared to the average speed of the race to this point, which is 43.16 kilometers per hour. And by the way, is just over 1 kilometer an hour faster than the fastest ever Tour de France from 2022. So this one's going to pull it back today, though. It's all climbing. But every chance I think that we could potentially have the fastest ever Tour de France announced on Sunday evening.
I think if we've got just a moment here, we have to touch on the news from Remco Evenepoel. He started the race with a fractured rib, so he was fatigued. He had a bit of a crash. I think it was in the Nationals, and yesterday he announced that he went into the Tour de France with a fractured rib and a bit of fatigue. So this was something they kept under wraps, and even at the time when he was struggling and things like that, they don't give anything away. Even there was rumours about Pogačar having a wee bit of a cold and things like that. Well, I know the doctor. I shared a room with the doctor of UAE Team Emirates, and there was no sign. It was just like anybody, you go through a little bit of a kind of tough time. That he wasn't sick or anything, but the fact that Evenepoel was coming back, because I think he was getting a little bit of abuse back in Belgium from the media, and to come out and say that he came into this race with a fractured rib and a bit fatigued, then that's the reason why he's no longer in this race.
Yeah, sensational. It's tough to rehab a rib, isn't it? Especially when you're riding Tour de France stages. We have heard and seen it in the past that riders are somehow able to ride through that pain barrier, but to ride for general classification, he did manage to achieve a stage victory with that scenario. Wout van Aert, tough day for him as well. Quite able to get the form of recent years. Another man who has the glare of attention from the Belgian media and fans. Absolutely every single human being in Belgium has an opinion on Wout van Aert and Remco Evenepoel. I can assure you the level of knowledge. They all have a pretty strong opinion right now of Victor Kampenaerts, because he's continuing to ride a very strong tempo on this climb at gradients of 8%.
Yeah, Guillaume Martin in this group here on the right hand side, another rider he's kind of yo-yoed his way in the Tour de France to a good performance in the past. Possibly thought of maybe looking at a stage win, and he's been up there in the general classification, of course, in the past, but he's just not found any form whatsoever. That team have been very, very disappointing in this race.
Yeah, he's their best placed rider on general classification, albeit 16th overall and somewhere adrift, over an hour down on general classification. So for Guillaume Martin, as you say, best finishing position for any rider from Groupama FDJ, fourth at the stage of Tour de France 25. Slim pickings for the Groupama squad. Riders floundering down the back. Jonas Abrahamsson, after his early heroics. Niels Pollitt has done great work, but he's going to struggle to be involved in the defence of the yellow jersey for Tadej Pogačar today.
See, he'd be okay if it settled down and he would ride at the front in this climb at a slower pace, but it's still kind of kicking off a little bit at the front.
It's worth remembering that this multi-screen is available on our digital platforms on HBO Max, Discovery Plus, and elsewhere. And you can really get just about every possible angle to pick up the Tour de France coverage and get a sense of what's happening at the back of the peloton, the front of the peloton, and further afield. It really is a must-have. Already 2 3/4 minutes down, the green jersey, and they will fight their way to the top of the climb. No doubt there's someone in. I wonder who's running the bus this year. I haven't heard who is the rider that takes control, who decides the tempo that the riders, the sprint group, will set. Right now, the riders taking control and setting the tempo on the group of the overall race leader is Tim Wellens, the Belgian champion. Quieter day yesterday, but available for duty today, and he's got Jonas Vingegaard wearing that polka dot jersey on behalf of the leader of that competition, Tadej Pogačar. Unlikely, I think, at this point, although, again, let's not rule it out, but the green jersey is going to be a challenge for him, but certainly the polka dot jersey to go with that yellow to demonstrate the level of dominance that he's had in Tour de France 2025. Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing to see Tadej Pogačar with this level of control over the race?
Nobody likes dominance, I don't think, in any sport. Although he's kind of dominated this race. He's won multiple stages, and it looks as if he's on his way to yet another Tour de France victory. But I just think it's in the manner that he's doing it. He's a real racer, and is this entertainment? You have to ask. I think all the stages have been entertaining. Maybe not from the control of UAE and Team Emirates, but I can remember the days with, watching Lance Armstrong, watching Chris Froome, and that was a lot of metronomic, the way that they run it. I don't think it's been quite like that. That will of Vingegaard to try and, beat Pogačar and, some of the other stages. I think
hit out from the bottom of climbs as well.
Yeah,
I think
for me watching it's been done 4.5 minutes up in general classification. But it's just everything else round about the Tour stages. I don't think we've seen one real dull stage. We never saw a breakaway in the stage into Dunkirk. That was the only stage I can think of, but then it was rather kind of entertaining in the running towards the finish.
Some groups all over the place now on this mountain as Primož Roglič has gone in search of stage honours, potentially to leapfrog ahead of Oscar Onley and maybe even his teammate onto the podium. Certainly to form that threat. And for Oscar Onley, he's got the job of trying to eyeball 2 different riders from the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad.
Well, that's really interesting there that Sepp Kuss is getting dropped. Very, very interesting. So they were trying to get riders in the front, including Sepp Kuss and Victor Campenaerts, and it's not happened. But the fact, Declan, that Tim Wellens is just setting tempo in the front here. Okay, I think Marcel, I'm not too sure if he'd made it into the main body of the peloton here, but we see that Nils Pollitt is there. The pace is just a little bit too much for him. He done a fantastic job yesterday, but at a slower pace, at his pace over the big climbs. We saw it in the Tourmalet, we saw it yesterday as well in the Madeleine. But the thing is, this pace has been set by Tim Wellens because they want to keep everything tight. They want a win with Pogačar, and in fact, I think he's almost kind of demanded it. He was maybe a little bit disappointed yesterday not getting that win on that particular climb, because a couple of times in the past it's not always going right for him in that climb.
But when they all throttle back, we'll talk about it, we'll just hear from Intermarché, won't they? They need something special.
The hardest climb of the day also, guys. The climbs after are more steady, but this is a really hard one. Come on, fight. Keep going.
This one and the plan. You don't tell them how hard the plan is as well. You just got to get over this one at a time, isn't it? Every pedal stroke is...
Look at how much all that is now.
That's remarkable.
He started it, maybe he didn't warm up. Maybe it took a bit of time to find his legs, but he worked his way back to the front of the race. You know, which is brilliant. But just looking at Vingegaard there, he's got Simon Yates next to him. But you know, where are all the others of his team? I really do think that I'm unsure about Visma. They were trying to put riders in front, and maybe they were trying to do what the plan is. But I think if I was Vingegaard, I'd try and look more for the stage, which means that he has to ride not by attacking throughout the stage, but I think he has to kind of sit back and try and do something in the final few kilometres of the stage today instead of further out, which is, yeah, might be disappointing watching, but he's not going to have a satellite rider in front. You've got Roglic here, Martinez, Rubio, Amiral again, and Valentin Pari-Pantra. Looks as if Victor Campenas is still trying to come across with Tiemann Arensman, but it really isn't happening purely because of the tempo of Tim Wellens. He's keeping it really close.
Yeah, peloton within 24 seconds of the race lead. Talk about satellite riders. I think Roglic would like a little bit more than 24 seconds over Lipovic and his rival Oscar Only, who's still safely in the wheels at the moment. Significant sized peloton rising up through this alpine ascent. Typical alpine architecture presented to us. And Lenny Martinez in unfamiliar team colours, full of fight today, looking in better form actually on this climb. A little shake of the blowing out the cheeks. Again, another rider who tends to be animated, and the passion I think that he is, and the inspiration that he's taken from all those is in the mile. Why he probably feels a little bit chastened as well by that penalty he copped yesterday and what it's done to his chances of taking this polka dot jersey. Still sits third in that on 72 points against 105 for Tadej Pogacar, so a 33-point advantage for the man in yellow.
See, this I noticed in the communication as well that I think it's Ricard got a yellow card for something he did previously. The thing is, you cannot give out stuff in a race and have it being affected in a race. Like Lenny Martinez won over the first climb, the Glandon, and preventing Tiemann Arensman from getting that. But you cannot look at that and go, you're taking 8 points away, but you're not actually giving Tiemann Arensman the points that you would have got. So it's how they decide whether they go, right, we're going to fine you, you shouldn't have done that, and actually take him out of the positions and any of the points that he got that day and moved everybody up.
In Formula One racing, in particular, they've done an awful lot of work in recent years to ensure that the stewards have all of the information that they need, and also they have a rule book available to them to make decisions quicker, so that the shifts can be made in race. Maybe that's it. A little bit more speed of decision making would allow those adjustments to be made, on the hill.
Yeah, but
just after
you say that the way that they design the rules and things like that, they can dock people points, but they cannot change the results. It's the same with sprints and points and all that sort of stuff. They cannot take these things away, and I think that's another thing they have to look at, because it did penalise Tiemann Arensman when it really shouldn't have. So maybe they should have, instead of docking him 8 points, maybe I've said, look, any of the points that you got today, we're taking it off you because of that.
Yeah, well, there's a technical committee in the UCI, and there are constant amendments to the sporting regulations, and it's not entirely. I'm sure this is something that they will have looked at and needs to be looked at again in the future, because absolutely, I think everyone agrees that Tiemann Arensman, who's also looking at getting involved in the battle for the polka dot jersey, he currently is fourth. He's just 7 points behind Lenny Martinez in that competition. Could potentially be a little bit closer. Could potentially be involved in the hunt for it.
Yeah, but rules are rules. They just, I would have, why 8 points? Why not just dock him the 20 points he got at the top of the climb? Why didn't they just go and say, like, we're docking you these points and taking you out that result for any of the King of the Mountains on that day and moving everybody into the positions there? Getting back to the race here, about 3 kilometres from the top, we did think that this was going to happen with Primoz Roglic, but I just don't think it's going to benefit them in the end.
Stay patient there, just from the wheel. Roglic has the interest to shake up the TC, but you have to be smart.
Sounds like sage advice for Lenny Martinez. Roglic is the one invested in trying to take as much time, whereas Martinez simply wants the points.
Yeah, well, it's not smart. It's just common sense that you're with someone that's trying to ride away from. To the next climb and then a long descent. The fact that the peloton are still only at 45 seconds and they're riding for potentially to help a Pogacar win. It's all this effort, and I said it yesterday. The effort you make early in the stage and on the, especially in the valleys and things like that, you're going to pay for it later. So Wellens and Marc Soler have got the kind of bit between their teeth, and what they want to do is make sure that they put Pogacar in a potential stage-winning position.
Lenny Martinez on the bush to try and scoop those 20 points that will carry him a little bit closer and keep that mathematical possibility of unseating Tadej Pogacar from the polka dot jersey, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. You can imagine how motivated he and the Bahrain Victoria squad are. So stage honours, I think, would be kind of exciting for them. Best finishing position in a stage of third. Phil Bannas delivering that. Earlier on, the first week of racing, Kevin Vauquelin, another man who fell foul of the stewards yesterday, the commissars, sending him a nice little bill for, I think it was 500 Swiss francs, albeit I don't think that was much of a penalty, and I think the sticky bottles that he got certainly aided his cause. He did drop one place in general classification, of course. Felix Gal moving up to 6th. And Kevin Vauquelin now 7th. And still the best placed of the French riders for the Arkea B&B Hotel squad, the embattled Arkea B&B Hotel squad, as you mentioned there. Chief sponsor, the main sponsor, title sponsor, is potentially considering its further involvement at World Tour level, so it's a difficult moment for that team. Paris-Pontre now in sight. The man who delivered a glorious success on Mont Ventoux just a few days ago. Little look over the shoulder from Primoz Roglic. Might actually like to have Paris-Pontre involved here. How excited will he have been by that stage victory? How much motivation will that have given to him? 2.5k to the top of the climb now for your riders at front. Narrow advantage over Paris-Pontre. Peloton almost 50 seconds down. It's steady painful now. Double figures percentages. Lenny Martinez not showing anything like the impetuosity we saw from him in the Pyrenees. He's happy enough just to track the Indoglan a couple of days ago. Harold Tejada. What a great Tour de France for the Colombian rider. By his standards at any rate, and the Astana squad's trying to take something from the event. Best finishing position to the stage from them. Davide Ballerini's 5th place a couple of days ago. Martinez now riding on the front. Within 2 kilometres of the top of the climb, he just sees that board announcing that he's got 2,000 metres in order to secure the 20 points on offer. It's 20 points for the ore category climbs. The plan also offering 20 points, and then the Cormet de Roseland 5, 3, 2, and 1 for first 4 riders across the line. Roglic getting the support. Seems very relaxed.
You know, this is a tactic they're going to play. Put Roglic in front, put pressure on the GC, but there's no pressure on the GC at all. The only pressure they are putting on is for Picnic Poster now. And they're not going to come up to the front. Not the pace that UAE Team Emirates are doing at the moment. So this is a Campeonato group. They just can't get to terms with the riders in front, but still the peloton are only at 51 seconds. And to just give you an indication of what's coming up, over the top of the climb, you have only got, 3.6 kilometres downhill, and then we've got another almost 6 kilometres up to the top of the next climb, and then we've got 18, almost 19 kilometres of a descent. Then we've got almost 13 kilometres of valley before we hit the climb up to La Plana, which is over 19 kilometres. Of course, the only way that Valentin Paripanta, I think, is going to win is how he won in the World Tour, by putting himself in the front in a group, and that's why he's trying to come across, and it looks as if he'll make the junction here. Martinez, well, he's only interested in going for King of the Mountains points. Roglic is putting the pressure on the GC, but like I said, the only pressure he's putting on is Picnic Postanel and Oscar Onley, and they're not going to react to it. Pogacar and UAE Team Emirates are riding for the stage, and they will make sure that they come to the bottom of La Plana with potentially, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes max, and that's not going to be enough at the end. So, yeah, it's a tactic, but it's not going in their favour today, purely because of UAE Team Emirates.
Tobias Foss now starts to stumble the pedals a little bit. To Campeonato there. What a great Tour de France that Bruno Amorai is having. Tall figure, but he goes so well in the mountains, albeit it's a narrow advantage for these riders in pursuit of the breakaway, which is starting to extend its advantage, but needs to. Such a short stage. Harry Poulter, anonymous in eastern France, from the Haute-Savoie department. It's that far from here. Hugely invested to make it up front and going for what will be an extraordinary second stage victory. And listen to the cheer he's going to get. Still 1,000 metres to the top of the climb. Presumably, Roglic and Harry Poulter are on board with the idea of Lenny Martinez taking the top points at the top of the climb, but he's got to be there to do it. I wonder whether Harry Poulter linking up now will maybe be tempted to just inject a little bit of extra pace into this one. Here's the situation in the battle for the mountains classification. Vingegaard sitting second in line. What sort of a battle will there be behind? Well, could well be that the chasers, the immediate chase group here, will hoover up most of the remaining points. Points for the top 8 over the climb. Tobias Foss looking pretty much in command of his effort, and how invested are the Ineos Grenadiers squad. I've got that stage victory, of course, courtesy of Timon Aronson on the Pyrenees. A steady 10%. And well, it's remarkable, isn't it? Harry Poulter, has he just sort of blown his lights a little bit? As the pace increased a little bit, but suddenly after making his way back onto this group, a little bit of daylight opens again.
Yeah, I think it's the effort of getting up here, and potentially just when they went on to another section there, that Roglic just increased the pace a little bit, but he could do with the company. But the thing is, they only have 47. You know, it's the fact that they are coming back to this other group. Is it going to help Vingegaard and Pogacar to take some points at the top, possibly? Because it looks as if they're going to catch the others before the top. So it might be in the back of their minds. Definitely for Vingegaard, I think he'll want to take some points over the top of this one.
will we have a look at the peloton and see if there's any sort of contest between those riders, the yellow jersey and the mountains jersey. For the minor positions, the 20 though about to be apportioned, and it's Lenny Martinez takes care of business, reduces his deficit now. Martinez moving up to 92 points, within 13 points of the lead of that competition. Continues to believe and to fight. By my calculation, there is only 2 points for the leader of the bunch across the top of the hill. His rider's less interested. False within half a minute, but just a scant margin of 20-odd seconds. An hour of racing already. Racing just south of 30 kilometres an hour average speed.
But that was 2 points that Vingegaard never even bothered about. So I think by the looks of things, he's got Victor Campenaerts in front. That is a satellite rider for him. But the problem I've got in this one is the next climb is a second category climb. It's not hard enough. So for Roglic to make up the time that he needs. I mean, how much time does he need? For Vingegaard to go across to him, drop Pogacar. So that's not going to work. So by the looks of things, Team Emirates is keeping it very tight, and they'll come off this descent onto the second category climb. And this stage is going to be all about the final climb, and I think that's what Picnic Post and now Oscar Onley were hoping for, and I think that's what they're going to get.
So three up front, still scrapping hard to increase their advantage, just south of a minute over the yellow jersey group at the moment. Delighted to say I've been joined by Jonathan Harris-Bass to run the rule over the riders for the next little while. Johnny, you've been watching with fascination as this one is developing. It's tough to really start these things on a climb as effectively the stage did.
Yeah, I mean, it's been absorbing racing so far, but I have to agree with Brian. It's that gap at the moment Campenaerts has over the yellow jersey group isn't going to be enough on a second category climb for Vingegaard to bridge across to. Primož Roglic, again, 2 days in a row now that Roglic has really looked back to great form. It's fantastic to see.
Pressure on Oscar Onley. I mean, the Pick the Post NL squads, we saw Warren Barguil dangling off the back. I presume he's gone at this point, although I don't know that for sure. But he needs as many riders as he can possibly get, and he needs as much good fortune as possible. Brian making the point, really, that the way that yesterday's stage evolved, Oscar Onley was isolated and in a little bit of trouble in the Col de la Madeleine, but worked hard to get up to the yellow jersey group, and then the steady tempo set by Pogacar and Vingegaard on the final climb yesterday, and the fact that Florian Lipovic had made such a huge effort to take some time on the valley road and was then vulnerable and compromised on the final climb proper. It kind of all worked out nicely for him, but he's in a bit of a race here, and the Bora Hansgrohe squad, by way of defence, have gone on the attack.
Well, interesting interview with Rolf Aldag before today's stage, where he just said yesterday was just one of those typical days for a team. He said it started out, everything looked amazing, absolutely wonderful for them. By the end of the day, they were crying into their hands. So it was just in the highs and the lows experience. This is stunning. What a shot this is, riding across the top of this dam, the Dam de Roseland, on their way to the Cormet de Roseland. It's just, I mean, if a picture doesn't encapsulate the Tour de France, then I don't know what does.
Yeah, it's an amazing image, isn't it? Barrage de Roseland. And they poured something in the order of 1 million cubed, tons of concrete, poured between 1956 and 1961 to dam the gorge. It's an immense feat of civil engineering, I think you will agree.
It really is.
Engineers are remarkable people. The vision, but also the confidence to say, yep, my calculations, I'm pretty sure they're correct. That should work.
I can see the road ahead, and it is mostly uphill.
On to the second climb. GC group is thinned out a little bit, so plenty of riders in it. No significant absentees in terms of top 10 riders. It'll be interesting to see how Kevin Volkline gets on today after yesterday's difficulties. Nice Hallen Johansson and Ben O'Connor now in the top 10, of course, as well. Before yesterday, the top 10 was comprised entirely of riders from Europe. Ben O'Connor, after yesterday's wonderful stage success, now occupies 10th position and has changed that little statistic. How his legs have recovered today.
That wasn't the only statistic, was it? We hadn't had a non-European stage winner on this year's tour until yesterday, so Ben O'Connor really flying the flag for the rest of the world, so to speak.
For Oz. Volkline in a little bit of a rearguard action here. Is that Volkline? And a little bit of frustration there from Ewan Kostu, I think, about the trying to put Commissars through the gap. And this is a difficult moment by the looks of things for the aforementioned Kevin Volkline. He's got 2 minutes and 16 seconds advantage over Tobias Halland. So that's 9.26 back to Ben Healy. So he's got a little bit of slippage room potentially, but he's got this climb followed by the final summit finish on La Plana. Another man who's starting to come good a little bit, Einar Rubio. He was caught within sight of the finish line yesterday by Tadej Pogacar, Jonas Vingegaard. Oscar only got over him as well, and that was a little bit disappointing, but it was an absolutely fabulous stage from Rubio. And well, he's dropped back now and into the clutches of the Jersey group. Nonetheless, Movistar continuing their attacking form. They lost Enric Mas as well, of course, yesterday with a little bit of knee trouble, so wish him well in his recovery. They're still trying to find that victory. Meanwhile, that trio up front, approaching a minute now of an advantage, and not yet. They're sort of on the plateau section here, aren't they? They've gone down a bit of descent. Martinez, as you can see, has taken the top points ahead of Roglic and Parry Poltra. Average speed is it's just nudging over 30.8. I think it's about 29.1 over the top of the climb. It'll yo-yo between 30 and 40. We'll never get quite up to 40, but it could easily be 35 kilometers per hour by the end.
And when you consider what they're climbing, that is remarkable.
Yes. Once upon a time, these stages will run off at sort of speeds of 30, 32 kilometers an hour, be very acceptable in the big mountains. A lot of chat about how the aero bike that is available to Tadej Pogacar is proving to be just as good for climbing as indeed it is on the flat roads and on the descents. So he's kind of sticking with. He's got 2 different types of Colnago bike available to him, and he's kind of sticking for the most part with the aero one. I didn't actually see which one he's on today, so I might have a little look and see if we can figure out which model of Colnago he's taking on board. A lot of conversation as well that they've really stripped that one down to make it as light as possible, and then of course they sometimes have to ballast them to bring them up to the UCI minimum 6.8 kilograms. Almost 9 minutes now for Jonathan Milan and friends. And a little bit of mist on those peaks, and we're hearing that there's a little bit of a sprinkle of rain on the summit of La Plana.
Yeah, which will make things, well, it shouldn't make too much of a difference because they are mostly going uphill as we see the 5.9 kilometre mark on this second climb, the Comé de Roselund. That last climb, I don't know whether you watched Alberto Contador's recon of it, but he was saying that the toughest sections of the last climb up to La Plana come early on. So if you're going to attack, you really need to do it nice and early.
Yeah, it eases off ever so slightly, doesn't it? It's a 5th appearance in the Tour de France for La Plana. We'll chat about it a little bit further into the day when we get in there, but we can talk and speculate about it. But yeah, I did hear that one. It was interesting. He sort of hedged it a bit, didn't he, Alberto? He said, "It's if you want to make a difference, you do it at the beginning of La Plana, but it is a climb that can really bite you, and you could find yourself significantly depleted when it comes to the slightly more benign gradients towards the top of the climb." We'll see whether that's how it plays out. There's Alex again. It's all for the Belgians. There's the Bretons. And there's Leknesson now on the front, tapping out a rhythm for the Uno X squad. Interesting to see the appearance of the Uno X team. I can only think that's because Kevin Vauquelin has been dropped out of this group, and potentially Tobias Halland Johansson could be moving from 8th into 7th place overall. There's one other Uno X in this group, and it is, of course, Tobias Halland Johansson just on the tail of Victor Campenart. Simon Yates there as well for Jonas Vingegaard. Vingegaard adopting a policy of staying right on the wheel of Adam Yates, who is right with his teammates. And overall race leader Tadej Pogacar. He has a few teammates here. Great job being done by Tim Wellens, just second in line here. Grateful, I think, for this work being done by the Uno X squad. It's taken the heat off the Uno X squad, off the U18 Emirates squad, and put the heat on this group up front, because they're fairly eating into that advantage. It's a relatively shallow climb, and unfortunately, I think for the Primož Roglič group, they're finding that this difficulty for Kevin Vauquelin is actually ultimately eating into their advantage, and their time out front might be limited because of it.
Definitely looks that way at present. But the advantage has gone from about 39 seconds down to 27 relatively quickly. Lead over the Kevin Vauquelin group has remained just about the same. That is for those up ahead.
Vauquelin has been fighting a rearguard action for days now. Challenging day for him, challenging day for others. And they, I suppose, will be grateful. Michael Storer in here as well. He's got two teammates for Kevin Vauquelin. The aforementioned Ewan Costiu, and also Raul Garcia, the Spaniard on the front at the moment. But they're, what, about 25 seconds down on the group of favourites, and that includes Tobias Halland Johansson just sitting, moving up and around Victor Campenarts, actually onto the tail of Simon Yates. 7th, 8th position there. And that's down to 27 seconds. They're going to have to come up with a new plan. The Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squads were hoping that it would be a bigger advantage, and that Oscar Onley, who has one teammate available to him at the moment, the Pro Stanel squad, managed to keep one in there. What is it, Frank van den Broek? We'll get a look on it.
I think the most depressing side for Visma Lease Bike is the fact that UAE have got such good numbers here. And it looked at the beginning of the day as though they were going to lose some, but Marc Soler's worked really hard. And then, once again, Tim Wellens doing a great job. Andreas Leknesson sitting out on the front has pressed things along, but you just look at all of those riders that Tadej Pogacar's got up there with him, and he looks very well protected and very calm.
I feel pretty small when you're around these mountains, don't you? They're just vast and awesome, and yeah, it's a jaw-dropping sight. Col de Cormet de Roselin, linking the Beaufartin Valley and the Mont Blanc Massif. 13th time we're coming up this one in the Tour de France since 1979. Last man to lead over this climb in the Tour de France was Nairo Quintana in 2021. It was a mudslide prevented us from going over it in 2019, if you remember.
I do remember that really, really well.
Was that the day that Thibaut Pinot had he suffered? Egan Bernal day, was it?
Egan Bernal definitely went into the yellow jersey that day. Julien Alaphilippe struggled. Can't remember about Pinot.
Well, here's the situation among these riders up front. 5th overall for Primož Roglic. This is a play for him potentially to vault ahead of Oscar Onley, but mostly to try and put Onley under pressure. Right now, looks as if Onley's very content and controlled. The tempo being set on the front of that main group by the UNO X squad, somewhat surprisingly, to the great delight, I think, of the UAE Team Emirates squad. Mima, top of the world. It's dizzying, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not enjoying that image at all.
Yeah, it's definitely a vertigo moment.
Yeah. Even looking at it on a screen, that's a vertigo moment. It really is.
Holding on to both arms of the chair here. Still Leknesund did a really solid job. This gradient kind of suiting him. Huge investment.
Now they reckoned that the time was going to be around 32 minutes, so 32, 33 minutes, so 21% of the time roughly.
So over half an hour, and at the moment they've leaked 9 minutes of it, but this is the easiest of the 3 climbs they face today. And I suppose if they're within, they could probably lose 10 minutes on La Plagne. So if they're no more than 21 minutes down starting La Plagne, it should be okay for the green jersey group. I think it's a generous enough time cut that I don't see any riders that are not suffering with any obvious illness or something that's debilitating and preventing them from putting out their usual range of power. I mean, naturally enough, all Tour de France riders, their abilities diminish as they go through the 3 weeks, but that's happening less and less because of there's just the knowledge on training, and particularly around nutrition, that they're not accumulating fatigue in quite the same ways. And as a result of that, they're maintaining their levels all the way through Tour de France, and speeds aren't dropping. Ben Healy and Felix Gall looking content at the moment. Felix Gall up 1 ahead of Kevin Fauquelin yesterday, up and into 6th place overall. Put a little bit of daylight now between himself and Kevin Fauquelin. Ben Healy, well, he has to close quite the gulf really it would require a major collapse for Kevin Fauquelin, I think, for Healy to move up. Nonetheless, Tobias Halland believes that 2 minutes and 16 seconds deficit is certainly within reach.
Well, the way that Vauquelin's group is giving up time at the moment to the Maillot Jaune group, it's not beyond comprehension.
A little bit of frustration here for Lenny Martinez after all that great work in the OR category climb. Claimed the 20. Actually for him now, Valentin Paris-Pontre and Primož Roglic are starting to step on the gas. Still 2 kilometers to the top of this climb, so the 5 points on offer are not, as things currently stand, going to go the way of Lenny Martinez. Indeed, he might struggle to hold off the Maillot Jaune group behind.
Maybe you should hitch a lift.
It's frowned upon, apparently. We had a long and detailed conversation about the penalty. The 8 points, hands tied a bit for the commissars. That seemed to be the maximum. That I'm not sure what the level of discretion is, but they penalised 8 points and took that from his total. But they weren't able to readjust the points distribution at the top of the Col de Madeleine yesterday.
I listened with great interest to that because I really agree with Brian. I think it's something the commissaires really need to take a look into, because Arensman, I think, may well have been up here today, fighting it out and looking for the polka dots. The trouble is, he's not really in a position to do so because, I mean, I think even the way he reacted when Martinez nipped in front of him and went across the top of the peak in first place, it smacked of someone who felt wronged, let's say. And yeah, I just think if we'd given him another 5 points, suddenly today might have looked like a more attractive proposition, whereas probably with his level head on, he's thinking, well, I'm going to have to be first over all of the climbs in order to win that in Paris, and I just can't see myself being out in front to win at Le Plan when it's clearly going to be a GC day.
Stage day yesterday for Ben O'Connor, the only man really to fend off the Jersey group to take his second stage victory, spanning a 4-year gulf in taking that success. He was one of 3 riders in the entire peloton of World Tour racing cyclists who had won each of the 3 Grand Tours, 1 stage each of the 3 Grand Tours, but he's now out of that club. There's, I think, only 2 of them now. Gosh, I can't remember which 2 there. I'll let you know, but that's he's got his trilogy, and now he's added a second Tour de France stage success after yesterday's wonderful climb. Doesn't win often, but wins big, makes them count. Excel Laurence, the Ineos Grenadiers squad, one of the best funded teams in world cycling, and a lot of eyeballs on that team in the last week. Their swan years has left the race, subject of much media speculation over his links to armed structures. Valentin Paris-Poultre has stomped on this one, but Lenny Martinez has found a little something to get back to this group. Maybe the gradient has shallowed a little bit. Don't want to cast aspersions, we haven't seen anything. And now we are 3, and the 5 points now potentially still on offer for a very fired up Lenny Martinez. This would move him to within, what, 8 points of the lead of the competition. It's still La Plagne to come, but La Plagne potentially going to offer a big haul of points for Tadej Pogacar. Potential net gain at the end of the day could be just 5 points. It's always assuming that Martinez can actually find a way past Valentin Paris-Poultre to take the 5 here. I think just sitting in the wheel is proving grimacingly difficult for the Frenchman. Slovenian meat and the French sandwich here. Two Slovenian flags, plenty of them indeed on this climb. Absolutely thrilled. They've got their man in yellow, and they've got Primož Roglič to cheer as well. Second place finisher of the 2020 Tour de France. One of the most remarkable, I think, responses to what must have been an absolutely crushing disappointment with Primož Roglič is the composure and the dignity that he displayed in losing his yellow jersey on the eve of glory and a bit of a collapse in the time trial. And disappointing moment for him then. He won't be disappointed not to have got the 5. Lenny Martinez takes care of business.
Well, I think he is yet another cyclist that you wouldn't begrudge Primož Roglič a stage win at this year's Tour.
No, as 3 in his career to this point. Worried to make it a 4th. It'll be a first stage victory for the team in this race, who've had trips to the podium each day to collect a white jersey for Florian Lipovic for quite a while at this point, and a final podium finish on offer at the moment for the young German, who's tracking Oscar Onley, staying welded and totally focused. No sign of the excitement, the impetuosity, you might call it. Certainly the attacking brio that was in evidence yesterday. Did say it was his first Tour de France, and that he wanted to to be exciting and interesting, and I thought that was revealing. Lipovic may have felt a little bit shackled by the white jersey and by the constraints of having to defend that. And he just said that he wanted to do something, wanted to enjoy the race. Well, it kind of bit him a little bit and lost some significant time. Adam Blind is out here. He's behind Kevin Vauquelin and watching to see the Frenchman try to limit his losses.
Okay, so we've just come over the top of the climb, and just a small report on Vauquelin. He's about 1 minute, 1.5 minutes behind. He's got 2 teammates with him, and this descent is super fast. If you take some risks, and they're confident descenders, they should be able to make the time up. It's a tailwind on this top part as well, so they're going to be nudging, getting close to around 100 kilometers an hour. And if you're brave, you can take some of these corners, you can make up time like that. So let's see what happens. But as you can see, the rain has started. So the rain's coming down, which if you're a confident descender, you can take even more time on these descents if you take a few risks. I'll leave you with that and keep an eye on him where he is. Back to you guys.
Thanks for that, Adam. It's just over a minute, isn't it? 105, 106 seconds for Kevin Vauquelin and friends to try and make their way back onto the Jersey group in time for La Plagne. We saw him just fighting his way back to the foot of the final summit yesterday, and then almost immediately going backwards when the gradient started to grip once more.
I can't see anybody taking any risks in this descent. Have you taken any risk? You risk losing everything. You know, with it's like dampness coming down as well. To make up a minute on a descent with this, it's going to be tough. You can make up some time, but not a minute. I think in most of these corners, that's where you would try and make up the time, take a little bit more risk. But with the rain coming down, you're going to take no risk whatsoever. So unfortunately for me, I can't see Vauquelin coming back in this descent.
Well, Valentin Paré-Poultre is familiar with these roads and very, very committed and really enjoying this descent. And he's put considerable daylight now into Primož Roglič and Lenny Martinez. The way things are going, he's going to have a little bit of a head start on the final climb. Very energetic beginning to this descent.
Yeah, we get out, what, almost 19 kilometres now. I give it 13 kilometres in the valley before the final climb or the final major climb of the tour.
After 5 seconds now, a little bit more. Will Primož Roglič and Lenny Martinez be able to make their way back on here? Well, Valentin Paré-Poultre looking to double up and knows that he needs more than a minute on the Jersey group, the group of Tadej Pogačar. Meanwhile, Kevin Vauquelin has managed to close 5 seconds in the early moments of this descent. It's a relatively big group as well, so the effective difference, given that they'll all be in sort of single file rosary reed formation, it will stretch out the length of that Jersey group and reduce the deficit they need to close the effective deficit. So that could potentially aid Vauquelin in his bid to get back on terms.
The thing about Paré-Poultre here, he can't do this on his own. You know, the effort he's going to have to make coming down this descent and in the valley before the final climb, he needs help if he wants to win this stage. Clearly on a good day, looks strong in that climb, but he needs Roglič to be here, but the gap they're going to have by the time ahead of the plan is not going to be enough.
Yeah, the straighter, less technical section further down here, offering an opportunity for Roglič to pick up a slipstream from some considerable distance away. Lenny Martinez doesn't look quite as at his ease. Poultre, I suspect, will just pull out of the toe.
Both of them are the same weight, 52 kilos.
Yeah, Paré-Poultre is certainly amongst the most slight riders in Tour de France, isn't he? Definitely built for climbing. Meanwhile now, Tim Wellens commands the front of the Jersey group. Anders Lekneson's currently in evidence, close to the front, but he's done a great job of driving a wedge between Tobias Haaland and Kevin Vauquelin. no real signs of gain just yet. It's kind of hovering around the minute mark.
بينبتا ናይ መጀመርያ ዝወሰዳ ጥራይ ዘሎ ስጋ ሕጂ 17 ነጥቢ ወሲዱ ለሻዓ ድሕሪያ ይወስድን ኣሎ ኢንተርሚዲየት ሲ ኣይ የለን ስጋ ናይ ዓቐበት እዩ ዘሎ ዝኩሉ ድሕሪ ናይ ዓቐበት እያ ተኻይዳ
limit your losses. That's going to be it. Unfortunately, if he'll be struggling on, the Col de Pre, then he's going to struggle on La Plana. But you're hoping at this stage that he comes better. Can't see it myself, but
ቀዳሊቱን ጉሩብ ያዚያ
with teams, you have to try and get
ትቦይደላ
the back, and hope he feels a little bit better on the next climb.
Well, Valentin Barry-Poulter certainly feels good today. I suppose it's almost inevitable in Tour de France that when a Frenchman wins a big mountain stage, that they talk about him potentially investigating his possibilities as a general classification rider. We are as three again. Valentin Barry-Poulter has been rejoined by Primož Roglič and Lenny Martinez up front. This is recorded images of Primož Roglič making his way back on and wants to take command at the front and has a little bit of a gap. Just a slightly bigger rider, by no means big, but carries a little bit more speed down the less technical aspects of this descent of the Rosamond climb.
Yeah, it's a descent that this, we know that Roglič is very technical when it comes to descent. He's not pushing on. It's just the fact that he's a sort of a bigger rider, slightly heavier than the two behind. And that's what happens. These climbers climb hills very well, go down the other sides. They don't have that kind of weight advantage.
Bit of extra momentum. Who would have thought Primož Roglič would have an advantage like that? Up against a couple of French climbers, and Barry-Poulter presumably will rejoin. He has looked very good. Again, the burden of expectation is immediately sort of shifted onto the shoulders of every French rider when they produce a glorious success in a mountain stage of Tour de France. Valentin Barry-Poulter, is there any sense perhaps that he might consider his options for not the Tour de France but for other stage races going for GC?
Yeah, I think there's a lot expected from Lenny Martinez as well, looking at potential GC. I just don't think they've got the engine to deliver day after day after day. So, but let's see. Look, it's been how many years? 40 years since French winner.
1985, yeah, Bernardino. Having to apply the last first-time French winner was Laurent Fignon in 1983. Of course, had won the Tour de France 4 times by then, and then he took France's most recent success in it remarkably as long ago as 1985.
Actually, it reminds me of being a boy because one of the major posters in my room, because half the side of my room I was sharing with my brother, so half the side of my room was all cycling posters, and my brother was into a bit more music, so these kind of Bob Dylan and David Bowie posters. But the biggest poster I had on my wall was actually Bernard Thévenet, Peugeot. That was the biggest poster. It's probably
77.
Yeah, maybe it's a decent size, actually with the old posters. But yeah, 1975. So when that comes up, 1975, Bernard Thévenet won that always triggers that poster that was in my bedroom as a boy.
Thévenet with the Peugeot team, first of his 2 Tour de France successes. He was a long time coming as well. He was a talent that had to be nurtured and goaded and supported, and needed to have all the everything going absolutely right for him to understand that he could do it. And he started to believe. Then suddenly,
I'm just hoping I get on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and that's the final question. Who won the Tour de France in 1975? What team did he ride for?
With centre-pole Mafak brakes, as I recall, probably the last, one of the last, if not the last, victory for a rider with centre-pole brakes. tricky little hairpin that one is. If you go right to the center of it, it's incredibly precipitous. It's quite steep little gradient there. So we did see Roglic and one or two others deciding to sort of root around the outside, stay high, you might say. The banking of the turn.
She's a sort of descent, can't take any risks at all. I don't think anybody can take any advantage. Roglic is not pushing it, and he still holds him in about 11-12 seconds. He's just going down there, just not taking any risks.
حيال قلقلت يزلو زي تقدم يزبرح زلو روبليتش يزي قلقلت بتعمل حيال.
These time gaps will jump around a little bit in the descent with this because they are kind of GPS and are switching back and forth.
Yes, and of course I mean, it's from the motorcycle, isn't it? But supporting the riders, so it's not necessarily always 1,000% accurate. Having said that, it looks like the Mokolan group is losing time to the Maillot group instead of closing up. Brakes squealing on Primoz Roglic's specialized S-Works. It's often the way, isn't it? When there's a little bit of moisture gets on them, immediately you get that horrible squealing sensation and noise. But the efficiency of the brakes is not in any way obviously affected. I think it's been one of the advantages really of the disc brake era. Still plenty of Luddites shaking their fist at the clouds at the arrival of disc brakes. It was a solution to a problem that didn't exist as far as a lot of people were concerned, but for many as well, particularly in wet weather conditions, disc brakes are an advantage.
Well, that was still involved with him at that time when discs were coming in, and nobody wanted them. We had to almost force a few riders to ride them and test them out, but nobody wanted them.
Yeah, perceptions around extra weight and potential aerodynamic penalties. I think the latter have certainly been dealt with. And most bikes as well, no difficulty making the minimum.
Yeah, it got to some crisis meetings at some point between the sponsors of the team and the team itself and the riders.
Which riders were not so keen?
All the riders.
Really? Yeah. Riders can often be quite conservative. You know, they have something that works and they don't want to be the guinea pigs.
Well, it had to be explained by the sponsors how it works and what's happening, and you got to remember that at that time the sponsors already invested a lot of money into the different molds and everything to make up the bike, so they'd already invested that. So for their sales going forward, they needed the pro riders to use them. So there was some crisis meetings which I was in the middle of, and I had to select a few riders to start becoming that kind of guinea pig of using them.
Yeah, at that time when rim brakes and there was a mixture of rim brakes and disc brakes in the peloton, it was a difficult transition moment because there were different braking capabilities, particularly in wet weather days, in amongst the peloton, and that was not necessarily a good situation. When everyone's got more or less exactly the same brakes, it's a lot less fraught.
Just don't talk to Eddie Dunbar about this.
No, he reckons, that maybe just that it's difficult to modulate a disc brake and that it's very easy to snatch it, and that's what he was suggesting after his crash that eliminated him from Tour de France. It's what's on board, it's what's making the noise like a 46A bus. At the moment, it's the S-Works Specialized. Similar bike, of course, being used by Valentin Barry Poulter in pursuit, and just a handful of seconds behind Primoz Roglic. Albeit, I think Barry Poulter is on Shimano. We'll check that. So different group sets, but Specialized S-Works supplying two of the three riders clear of the field. Lenny Martinez is less assured, really, in his descending. We've seen that already this year. It's a no-risk strategy being adopted by the Maillot Jaune group. Command at the front, and Tadej Pogačar staying close to the front, as indeed is Jonas Vingegaard and his teammates. Two to resist at the moment. And still tracking now, showing about 1:04, so maybe a little bit of a gain now from Roglic and Barry Poulter.
Yeah, they're not giving this up at all. UAE Team Emirates. Pogačar wanted to stage yesterday in that climb that was in the back of his memory, and I think he just wanted to put that same trajectory
Pogacar, Vingegaard ግን ትማል በትዝራናዮ ብጣዕሚ ፖጋቻር ኣርእና ሓይሉስ መመሊስ እንዳወሰኸ ዝኸይድ ዘሎ ካብ ግምታትነስ ብዙሕ እንዳወፀ እዩ ዝኸይድ ዘሎ ግምታት ብዙሕ ርኢና ኢና ሞ ብዙሕ ሰኪፍና ነይሩ ግን ሕዞ ኢላ ሓሲበ ነይሮሞ ቪንገር ወርሓን ክገብር ኣይከኣልን በቃ ፖጋቻር ምስ ሙሉእ ሓይሉ ኢሉ ስላ ዝሕጅ ሎማዓንቲ እውን ከምኡ እዮም ህላ ጆንኮብ ቪዝማ ተኸቲሎም እዮም ዝሕልውዎ ዘለዉ ግን ይኸዱ እሞ መጨረሻ ኣይከዱን እዮም መጨረሻ ላስት ኣይውድን እዮም ዘለዉ ቪንገር ከዓ ምናልባት ዓለታ ዓመት ዝተሃረሞ እሱ ዝያዳ ታሽሙት ገብሩ ዝብል ቪንገር እምበር ክወዳደሩ ዝኽእል ነበረ ቪንገር ፅቡቅ ብቕዓት ዝነበሮ እዩ ምስ ሓይሊ እዩ ነይሩ ግን ሳይክል ማሳይቲ ቁርጠ ይሰክፈካ ብጣዕሚ ፅቡቅ ፀወታ እዮም ዘሪና ዘሎም መንጎ ክልቲኦም ናይ ሎም ፀወታ ከዓ ንሪኣ ኢና ከምዚ እንተኾኑ ክብረት ዓዘብትና ሼር ላይክ ሳብስክራይብ ኣይንሕናቕ ሳብስክራይብ ግበሩ ነዛ መደብና ተዓዱ መዓልታን ሳብስክራይብ ምግባር ኣይትሕመቑ share like
he wants absolutely everything to the new cannibal, you might say, and it's good news really for Oscar Onley, isn't it? Because his picking post NL squad, nothing like as strong as the UAE squad, but it's the UAE team that are doing a lot of this chasing and then keeping Roglic honest, and that means that Oscar Onley just has to focus on his battle with Florian Leibowitz on his final hit.
This is why the tactic of Red Bull was never going to work. Roglic going in front, but what else can you do? You can only try. That's why we're here, but it's never going to work. The effort of Primož Roglic now, will he pay for it on the climb? They might pay for it a little bit, but the only other tactic they've got is they know that Oscar Onley is going to go on the attack. So why not stay with Lipovic and kind of help him through this final stage to try and keep him on the podium?
Well, it's another point that actually was made by Alberto Contador, is that the La Plana is tougher at the bottom than it is at the top. So if you have a little bit of an advantage starting the climb, you could actually maybe stay with the Jersey group and with Lipovic further up the climb. Down into the valley now, and when this descent ends, it sort of continues to sort of go down, more down than up, all the way to the start of the climb proper.
Yeah, it's about 13 kilometres on this type of roads to La Plana. Just going back to the Lipovic Onley situation, Onley prefers it steeper. The harder the better. And in fact, he would have preferred probably a longer stage. That was probably his best stage yesterday. And he's probably, and arguably, the only rider that's been able to stay with Vingegaard and Roglic when they've gone at it in the end. Okay, they kind of split up in the last few hundred metres, but in a real part of the climb, he was able to stay. So the stage is set. I think the bottom of the climb sits maybe only better than the top. He wants it as hard as possible. Red Bull, Bora Hansgrohe have gone on the attack with Roglic to try and use that number to try and kind of weaken Onley. I don't think it's going to work for them, that tactic. It's just kind of tiring Roglic out. And I think the situation now is set for Pogacar to try and win. I think if Vingegaard wants to try and win, he has to go toe-to-toe in the final couple of kilometres. I don't think we'll see him attacking from distance. But Onley said he will try and go on the attack, but he'll have to do it at the right moment, at the right time. And he'll hope that will come.
But you think it might be early on the climb, because that's where he can really make the rig here?
I still think it's going to be very difficult for that to happen. I really do think that you got to remember yesterday the big gain that Oscar Onley had, and I really do hope he gets third. But I think yesterday, with the efforts that Florian Lipovic had paid for it in the end, while Oscar Onley had made less effort and he was in a better situation come the final climb, I think both Onley and Lipovic go into this climb together and equal. And that to me suggests that, yes, I think Onley could probably beat Lipovic on the stage, but I'm finding it difficult to see 22 seconds. That's where I am at the moment. I hope that Oscar is on a super day and Lipovic has paid for his efforts before, but I know that there's a whole 80 million people in Germany hoping that he keeps a hold of that third place in the white jersey. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Oscar to take back those 22 seconds. That's what I think.
Well, it's going to see what happens. Tracks all Laurence. I think if I were you, I'd take that jacket out of your pocket. You're going to need it any minute now. Not too far behind now, but Kevin Vauquelin has leaked sort of 1 3/4 minutes now. Well, the gap didn't get back on the descent, didn't get close. They never even began to gain, did they? This has been a sustained push here by the Belgian national road race champion, already a stage winner in Tour de France 2025, and now 100% dedicated to trying to create the potential for a fifth stage victory indeed, for the yellow jersey, 6th for the team. It looked to me as well as if Primož Roglič he was radioing the team, maybe for a little bit of extra information, but this shower is going to dampen the ardour, I think, of many of the riders in this group. It's not Ben O'Connor, who must be absolutely thrilled with the way things went after his glorious success yesterday. Mühlberger, after that sketchy little crash that happened to him with a touch of pebbles on the descent of the Madeleine a couple of days ago, or yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, I think he'll be delighted actually that he's managed to get down the most technical and demanding part of this stage, and now it's just facing the climb to come.
Yeah, I got a message from Steve. Obviously, I congratulated him. I was in that similar situation when he won the stage. I'm not alone at the front, but definitely as a manager in the tour, when your riders, winning a stage like that, and he said to me it brought back a lot of emotions. Being alone at the front of the Tour de France is something very special that very few people get to experience.
Yeah. Yes. Steve Cumming took his victory in Mons many years ago, and then in the car supporting Ben O'Connor as he raced to glory yesterday for the Jaco Lula squad. He's still part of this group right now. And the Ineos squad believe that potentially Tim Wellens is getting a little bit of assistance here from the motor. Well, Tim Wellens is entirely within his rights not to ride in the slipstream.
He's just following the bike in front. We're getting some real close pictures.
You have to recognise as well that the moto is capable, the moto cameraman is capable of zooming in and making this shot quite a bit tighter, and that the advantage, any perceived advantage, might not necessarily actually be there.
The only other way of doing it is from the helicopter or by the side, because by the side you're doing a slipstream, but it's the way that the motorbikes have been told to do from the front, and the riders will try and follow the motorbikes in front.
Racing through and out of Bourg Saint-Maurice. Last time I was there, it was much sunnier. I can tell you, a beautiful meal and a cup of coffee at the end of a long bike ride. Something awaiting potentially this man at the top of the plan, but I think he's going to have to do it by coming out of the group again, because within 20 seconds, so it looks as if he's coming back, and I think just has pretty much accepted his fate. Tim Wellens setting a tempo. Why would Ineos Grenadiers be particularly exercised about the fact that the UAE may potentially have been getting a bit of an advantage in chasing a Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe?
Because it's making the pace faster, and they're starting to kind of struggle on the wheel. It's just a speed thing. If they think that the front of the group is being towed along by the motorbike, and you're starting to feel the pressure in your legs, of course you'll start to wave them away. That's it. They're not worried about catching. You would think that the Red Bull rider Lipovic would wave more than Ineos. It's just because they're probably struggling to hold the wheel.
Yeah, everyone's starting to suffer a little bit.
It's as simple as that.
And the rain, while the temperatures aren't particularly cool, it's around about the 15 degrees centigrade in the valley, so it's not not ridiculously cold by any means, but this is just going to take the edge off it a little bit more, and these riders might be starting to feel quite cold, and it can seep into your bones and most particularly into your muscles really quickly.
Yeah, rain even at this temperature can sometimes, it never really affected me, but I know of some other riders that can give them kind of heavy legs like which it doesn't have to be cold to make it like that. Sometimes the rain has a little bit of an effect, even at 15 degrees. It feels a lot cooler as well.
Oscar Onley's a Scot, so he should be okay. He's from South.
That's what they say. They get rain in Germany as well. But it's just, they say, yeah, you're Scottish, you can deal with the rain. I was actually at the way in the train, and there's somebody with a North Coast 500 book, and I was a bit shy about saying something, but eventually kind of pointed at the book and looked at me and he said, I take it you're doing it? He said, yeah, October. And we got on talking about how are you doing it? He said, you're doing it in the motorhome. I said, oh, why not on a bike? I said, no, motorhomes are good enough. And the first thing he said was, yeah, in October, rain. I said, well, you know, you just have to put up with that, don't you? You're going to Scotland. And I can remember growing up as a youth, I can't remember the rain. I had a great childhood, and we travelled the islands and done a lot in Scotland. I don't remember these things, but you know. But now, like today, I live London area, and I look at the temperature back home, and sometimes it's 10 degrees of a difference.
Make them tough in Scotland, and Oscar Onley currently 4th position overall, distinctly.
But I was just looking at Roglic, almost 13 minutes down, 15 and a half to Felix Gal. Roglic has to, if they want 5th place, that's why he's paring his effort back.
Just one out front at the moment as Tim Wellens tows the Jersey group up onto the tail of Primož Roglic. He's just a handful of seconds at this point ahead of this group, which has been set a fairly fierce tempo on this short stage, final stage in the Alps now. We've got tomorrow's difficult penultimate stage of the race. There's almost 3,000 metres of climbing in tomorrow's stage from Nantua to Pontarlier. And there are 4 categorised climbs along the way: Cat 2s, Cat 3s, Cat 4s. So a series of difficult and challenging climbs. Bit of a classics day look about it. Slightly different in character to this Alpine assault, but nonetheless not by any means
a stage for Mathieu van der Poel.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, who else is going stage hunting from the break tomorrow? Is that a breakaway day for sure?
Yeah, I think maybe Wolf van Aert an opportunity. He went out the back early. Of course, Mathieu van der Poel no longer here, but just getting back to the stage today, we're about to hit the climb soon. Voigtland group, well, he's at 1:47, so he's not going to get on. There was no way they were going to take any more risks than the front riders were. So unfortunately, he's getting very close to losing that position in the general classification to Johannesson. But for Primož Roglic, it's a bit like yesterday with Lipovic in front. He's using a bit of energy.
Still not back in. I thought he was about to be retained by that group, but it looks as if he is sort of continuing to persevere. So he's one-on-one against Wellens here.
Yeah, I think he has to watch. He has to recover a little bit and then go up this climb, because if he loses, if he gets dropped and loses 3 minutes, it's quite easy in this climb. If he loses 3 minutes, then they lose their 5th place. So it's a tactic right from the start that they've tried. I said at the time I didn't think it was going to benefit them in any way. I'd probably have just made sure that Lipovic was looked after in this final climb rather than do this. That's what I would have done. I don't think I would have kind of almost sacrificed Primož Roglic. If he does lose 3 minutes and goes down to 6th place, then they'll say at least we tried. But I really do think that on Vol 2 stage, that's what Oscar Onley had. The fact that Roglic and Lipovic were together, that kind of benefited them and didn't benefit Oscar Onley. And I think that was the best way to try and keep Florian Lipovic in that 3rd position.
We're only about 2 kilometres less, indeed, 3 kilometres to the start of this climb. The La Plana beckons now. Tim Wellens has finally done the job of closing down Primoz Roglic. The speed has skyrocketed again, hasn't it? Up from what, 29.1 over the top of the climb. It was 30.1 as we headed towards the second climb of the day, and then it's flown back up to 37.7. It'll be coming back down again as they race up this final 19.1 kilometer La Plagne final or category climb of Tour de France 25. Martinez just trying to see if he can scoop some more points. He wouldn't bet on it though. Big GC favourites and the top climbers in Tour de France 25 are about to do battle for stage honours. The Maya Vere group looks in good shape. It's about 14 minutes down, might be even a tiny bit less by the time they get to the bottom of the climb. That should give them enough. Does it give them enough slippage room?
33 minutes.
That's La Plagne, what we're facing into. As we've heard, it's at its most challenging at the start. It's the 5th appearance of La Plagne in Tour de France history. Several sections above 9%. It's an average. Bottom to top, 7.2%, but it's a long climb. 19.1 kilometers is a seriously long and challenging climb. First used back in 1984, the aforementioned Laurent Fignon took the win. He doubled up in 1987. We all remember that one. Laurent Fignon. Yes, I know exactly where I was when I saw the 1987 Tour de France. Roach was 5th on that climb, by the way. Stephen Roach on his way to overall success. If Ben Healy can soar to glory today, it would be a little bit of a surprise. Even a 5th place, I think, would be a good result for the Irishman.
Yeah, Declan asked me before the stage, where did Stephen Roach finish on that stage, and I said on his back.
He did fundamentally, yeah, absolutely. Collapsed, needed oxygen, helicoptered off the climb, off to hospital, recovered, finished 2nd the next day, and took time out of Delgado the day after that. It was an extraordinary recovery. On his way to famous success. Stephen Roach, no doubt, watching. Let's see how Ben Healy will get on in his battles. Could be a Ben Healy day again tomorrow, actually. GC ambitions as well. Now, cloud swell, the gradient grips. Who's got their climbing legs on today?
Oh, you just mentioned it. Today.
Today. Yeah.
Today's today. I think we'll see it. Well, we can half expect it.
Jonathan Narve is available for the yellow jersey. Tim Wellens, how long will he last on the climb? Soler worked very, very hard to be involved in the race, but he's dropped back. Still got Adam Yates as well, just a little bit further back down the line at the moment, behind the Visma bike riders. Klaas Howland wants to stay as close to the front starting this climb as possible, so he's paying attention. Oscar Onley is absolutely welded to the white jersey of Florian Lipovitz at the moment, sort of it's nestling in the middle of the group.
Just watch the back, actually. I think Roglic is down towards the back now. This is Tobias Foss, but Roglic, see?
Well, that's a huge disappointment. And immediately, the Slovenian rider, 2nd in Tour de France 2020 and 5th overall starting today, could potentially be riding out about the difference between Primoz Roglic and Felix Gall. 2 minutes and 47 seconds and 19 kilometers of torture in prospect as...
the tactic today means that they can still lose 3rd place and lose 5th place.
Well, that will be an absolute collapse for the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe squad. Florian Lipovitz, it all rests on the shoulders of the 24-year-old German rider in his debut Tour de France. Podium finish still in prospect. Himself and Oscar Onley, the big standout riders from this year's Grand Boucle. Moorberger already coming out as well.
If I was Oscar Onley, I'd say to him to move up onto the wheels of Vingegaard and Pogacar. I wouldn't be stuck behind Johannesson.
And O'Connor as well, starting to suffer a little bit. Armanite also after his heroics.
Well, there's Vlasov there. Vlasov is, well, he has to try and stay as close as possible just in case Lipovic needs him. But they'll be in two minds whether to try and help Primus, which going out the bottom of the right at the bottom. It's all the same. All the effort in the rally, you pay for it on the climb, and that effort going solo, he's paid for it big time. And
just over the top of the climb when they only had less than a minute, Auti had pulled the plug at that moment and just coasted down the hill. You know.
I wouldn't have gone on the attack from the start. That's what I was saying. You have to have a choice. The third and fifth, right? UE were always going to ride for the stage run on a short stage like this. And right from the start, you can see it. So just tell them, right, call off that plan. And now your job, Primus, is to secure third place. Just in case Lipovic is not fully recovered from yesterday, you have to be there. So I'm glad they've done this plan because I'm going to be biased today. I want Oscar only on the podium. This is Scottish history. Well, nobody has been in the podium as a Scottish rider. So I'm glad they've done this. It's going to help us Scots. But no, getting back to it, it's yes, it could have worked, but in the scenario we've seen in this race, the UE team members took it up very early on and they weren't giving anybody anything. They want to win this stage. Ultimately, yes, they're helping Oscar only, who now comes on to the final big mountain in this year's tour, needing to find 22 seconds.
And Scotsman heading on the front of this group. Strong situation for the Decathlon AG Tour squad. They've got three riders in here, including Felix Gall. They want to really push on to try and turn the knife into the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe ambitions for two riders in the top five because, well, they've got, I think it's Aurélien Perret-Bontre there already, also to support Felix Gall. Scotsman setting a fierce tempo to push Primož Roglič further back. Roglič still sitting in fifth place on the virtual scenario, but he's at the back of this group and in trouble. Now look at this. What a show of strength. Gall moves up.
Yep, they want to put the knife in to Bora Hansgrohe now. They want to go into fifth place in the Tour de France.
And this group is divided inside as Perret-Bontre, the other one. We see his brother Valentin doing great work.
That's a famous one now.
He's set to work on behalf of Felix Gall. There's no bid for stage honours. Doubling up in the family would be a remarkable affair, but nonetheless, it is a great opportunity for Aurélien Perret-Bontre to showcase his wonderful climbing ability in the company of Callum Scottson. And Felix Gall starting the day sixth. Another chance of moving up here with Primož Roglič floundering a little bit. And again, this probably is further good news for Tadej Pogačar in his bid for a fifth stage success.
Yeah, others are prepared to ride, but it happens all the time. You get into the last week of a Grand Tour and there's different competitions and everybody's wanting to either hold their own place in the general classification or try and gain. So we're getting all this, and right in the middle of it, you've got Pogačar and Vingegaard just sitting there. They can't do anything because it's happening all around them. You know, people are going for different competitions, the team competition or whatever it is. So these always happen, and it's very difficult to kind of factor all these things because you never know the scenarios are going to happen. But it's definitely Decathlon to finish fifth rather than sixth. That's what they want. They could salvage something from the Tour de France from them, finishing in fifth place rather than sixth place. But they're a team that, you know, are on the ascendancy, a bigger budget next year, and you know they want more.
And Tobias Howland is tracked by his nearest rival on general classification as well, Ben Healy. He's about 7 minutes 10 seconds down on Howland, so unlikely to be a major shift there. He had still 16 kilometres of this climb remaining. Is this currently good news for Oscar only, or?
Yes, he's the picnic post and now have not done anything today. They've just sat back. They have got the tactics spot on. They've just said that they're going to wait. You know, they didn't even react or do anything when Roglič went on the attack, and it was the right thing to do. Let the race come to them, because the fact that UE team members came to the front straight away, they knew that Pogačar wanted to win the stage, and that's the way they've ridden. So just wait and hope that you've got the legs. As for Oscar only winning this stage, or anybody in this group winning this stage up against Pogacar, I think it's going to be very difficult.
He's the best climber in the competition. He's the yellow jersey. He's also got probably the best top of the mountain sprint that any rider has. So, yeah, it's
but even if you're thinking out, you're going to have to wait. If he goes on the attack with 5Ks to go, I still don't think he's going to. I think he has to wait even later. Just wait, potentially go toe-to-toe with him in a sprint for the finish. And I know that Pogacar is fastest, but last year he did beat him just in a stage. So you have to believe that you can maybe try and get something, but going early, Pogacar just sit on you.
Aurélien Paré-Poulter is overtaken by the last man of the group. He's got it. Valentin Paré-Poulter. This time out front has come to an end. And the Paré-Poulters leave it up to now Callum Scottson to set the tempo for the Austrian rider Felix Gall, second in line here. Trying to bid for another stage success in Tour de France, but more particularly here, in reality, he's just trying to put as much daylight as possible between himself and Primož Roglic. Meanwhile, that other GC battle in the top 10, Kevin Vauquelin now is 2 minutes and 7 seconds down on this group, so effectively within 11. Seventh position to Tobias Haaland. Simon Yates still available for Jonas Vingegaard. Jonathan Narvaez still available for Tadej Pogacar. Oscar only looking okay at the moment, and Lipovic, as has been the situation since the very beginning of this stage, he hasn't been more than millimetres behind the.
No, he's riding like Lipovic onto the wheel of Oscar only, and that's what he has to do. Only goes, he has to go with him. It's going to come down to, a couple of joules up this mountain.
Good job.
Magnifique from Scottson and Gall, the Australian and Austrian combination for the French Decathlon Nature to War Mondial team, taking command of this 19th stage of the Tour de France. Still 15 kilometres of this horrible climb to go. Frank van der Broek now just dangling on the back. His potential to assist Oscar only is diminishing. I wonder if he can hang on and for how much longer. Paré-Poulter just one in front of him. Ben Healy trying to move up a little bit. Aronsman there as well. Aronsman just in front of Narvaez. Perhaps, potentially, Jonathan Narvaez is just starting to suffer a little bit, or is he just dropping back with potential to go to the team car? I think it's probably the former. Into the ski station at La Plagne. Four-season resort these days. That's what they're on board, these highly regarded Van Riesel machines. I believe the cheapest bike that you can buy in the World Tour peloton. A little bit of a fracture there. That's it for Callum Scottson. He's done his work and now left it up to Felix Gall. Solo ride for the Austrian rider to try and put the daylight he needs. And it's a significant gain that's required, 2 minutes and 47 seconds, albeit has been given a racer's chance by Roglic getting dropped so early on this climb.
Yeah, he's pushing out Felix Gall. Very good climber. He's thinking gaining time, moving up in the general classification. That's why he's team roads. But we've seen this happen. I think it was Super Banyers who went on the attack as well. Of course, everybody knows that if they wait for Pogacar and Vingegaard to go toe-to-toe, and Pogačar thought about it there and decided, no, I'm going to leave it up to the others. The only way that these guys are going to win the stage if they do this, and they've got the legs to be able to go on the attack. But Pogačar, well, he waited for Gal, and then that never happened, so he's decided to go.
Look at this, Aronsman invests, and it's Tadej Pogačar with 14 kilometres remaining of this mountain, and the only man that can follow is Jonas Vingegaard. The rest are happy to watch and stare admiringly, but frustrated as the yellow jersey and the polka dot jersey disappear in the distance. Already almost 2 minutes clear of Primož Roglič. Volkanen is out of his position as well. He's dropped a position on general classification, and that's one-on-one on the mountain. La Plagne is going to be a duel between the top two on general classification. Anyone coming back from here?
No, and we kind of expected this. As soon as we hit the mountain, you know, you're going to have two duels, one here and one with Lipovic and Onley.
An odd situation, really, that Jonas Vingegaard tracking the yellow jersey here, and it's the yellow jersey that wants to set the tempo. Is any question that Jonas Vingegaard might be minded to come around, or is this going to be all about Tadej Pogačar? The tempo he's setting is comfortable within himself, and yet it's good enough to push absolutely everyone in this bike race except for Jonas Vingegaard further in the distance.
See, earlier on in it, you'd have seen this being the opposite. You'd have seen the fact that Vingegaard would go on the attack and Pogačar would just follow. So I think for me, Vingegaard is just, he wants to win the stage today.
So no movement really between Oscar Onley and Florian Lipovic. Onley is playing a canny game here. He's tracking Ben Healy. Healy trying to put under a little bit of pressure Tobias Howland. Meanwhile, Aronsman has made his way back up because there was a little bit of a throttle back perhaps from the yellow jersey. The Dutchman was really up for this one. An amazing push early on from the Ineos Grenadiers man.
Yeah, Pogačar just used Aronsman now, just eases onto the wheel.
And no gifts today, I think. He could work the entire mountain, but I think Tadej Pogačar really wants this victory. Jonas Vingegaard won't be forgiving it up either. This will be a duel to the top. Aronsman is weaving around the road. He's yo-yoing around off the front. Eventually, and they wants to just put a little bit of separation between them and go again. Pogačar, well, he just responds apparently effortlessly.
He just moved over. Yeah. Aronsman, he's trying the right thing, but he doesn't have the legs to make the difference. And Pogačar's just going to follow him and use him. Otherwise, he would be stuck in the front because Vingegaard ain't coming through.
Well, immediately Aronsman realises the yellow jersey's in his wheel and thinks, well, I mean, there is an aerodynamic benefit to riding in the wheel. Ought Aronsman just track Vingegaard here, stay third in line, and just see how long he can stay with them, and maybe just pulls him further clear.
In the back of the mind, you think that if you wait further up the climb, then you're not going to be able to beat them. So he's trying to gain time and hope they look at each other, which they are a bit, but they're not letting them go.
GC battle between the top two, and a little interloper here is Timon Aronsman from the Ineos Grenadiers squad, trying to back up his stage success from some days ago. Aronsman currently 13th overall, actually, but only 52 minutes and 49 seconds down, so I don't think he's heading into the top 10. Aronsman now has got what he wanted, a little bit of daylight. Will he be able to open up a significant advantage so that when the scrap properly begins between Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard, he will be able to hold them off, or at least stay with them and contest at the top of the mountain. No wonder, given the amount of time that he's taken, just exactly where Felix Gall is he able to potentially get on terms now with Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard? Kilometers an hour into an 8% gradient. The efforts will be grateful, I think, for the rain at this point. It'll cool them slightly. Certainly won't be suffering from the effects of the cold. Unlike the spectators who've been here for a while. And drowned the rats in some ways. Looking a bit bedraggled. Pogačar looking comfortable. Plenty of ways you can look at this, of course. You can experience the multi-screen on digital platforms. HBO Max and Discovery Plus. Always worth investing into. You can pick your screen, pick your view, and encompass just about everything that's happening. Quite like that view, isn't it?
My eyes are wandering all over the place here. Frank Vandenbroek has come up, so this is good for Oscar Onley. I was wondering who would be taking it up. Ben Healy did. But now that Oscar Onley's got one rider here.
And a remarkable stage success this would be, were he to pull this one off. You've got to admire his ambition. Stalked by the yellow jersey, and perhaps the only other man who could possibly prevent Tadej Pogačar from taking a stage victory, Jonas Vingegaard.
Well, Vingegaard is just using the tactic now of, I'm just going to sit. If you want to win the stage, you need to drag me up this climb. Yeah, for Pogačar, he has to catch and I think for Vingegaard to win the stage, he's hoping Pogačar will tire himself out. Can't see it happening, but he's hoping. Gal coming back. And then we've got the only Lipovic duel behind.
Simon Arensman continuing to open up a little bit of daylight between himself and the yellow jersey. Very impressive work for the man who took the victory in the Pyrenees. He'd like to back that up with success in the Alps. And it looks as if Gal is going to get on terms as well with Tadej Pogačar.
Well, he's already moved. The graphic came up there. He's already moved into 5th spot.
So it's Felix Gal moving up ahead of Primož Roglic. Meanwhile, Tobias Halland Johansson is, as far as I believe, he's certainly also ahead of Kevin Volkeman and continuing to gain. Arensman. Pain etched on his face. Don't tell him you've got 11.5 kilometres of this left, though. He already knows.
On Super Band years, it was torture, but at that time he started with 3.5 minutes. He started with the GC contenders, and you can only think that Pogačar is just riding a real easy tempo. That's why the other riders are coming back. Good job by Frank Vandenbroek coming back there, because otherwise, who was going to have to ride? I think Tobias Johannesson would have ridden for GC, but when you get the top two up there, you know, you're in this next group, the battle for the podium place. But for Ben Healy and Johannesson, they could be gaining time in a lot of their rivals.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch, but certainly it is securing Ben Healy's top 10 in Tour de France. I think he started with 3:38 on Ben O'Connor. O'Connor has been dropped. Tough day for him. But Felix Gal now is going to be the first rider, just about. Will it be Frank Vandenbroek from the Chasers to rejoin the yellow jersey?
He's just gone. He just closed the gap there and just moved to the sides. Only having to come up to Gal.
Oscar only having to make just a little bit of an extra effort, and you can see that puts Lipovic, as Frank Vandenbroek, the Dutchman, is no longer of assistance to Oscar Onley, his fellow countryman from the Ineos Grenadiers team. Simon Arensman is continuing to make hay here, and it's a sense that Tadej Pogačar is continuing to lead time here a little bit. He wasn't able to cruise away, and is he maybe just not quite as strong in the Alps as he was in the Pyrenees? 3-week race.
I think he's worried about Vingegaard. Not the 4th time, but for the stage. You know, there's a lot of respect between both of the riders. He really went on the attack. Vingegaard was up for the task, but he didn't want to just going to sit on the front.
Now, coming up on halfway through this climb, how quickly they put these kilometres under their wheels. Simon Arensman continuing to extend his advantage up to half a minute. Needs all of that and more. 25-year-old. Having his stage win. Up to Super Bagnaia on stage 14. to his victories in Vuelta a España, Tour de Pologne, second overall in Tour de Pologne as well. Stage of Tour of the Alps earlier this year. Moved across the Ineos Grenadiers team from Team DSM, which is the team that has morphed into Picnic Pro Steno.
This is your place here, Thailand. Fighting with these guys, all right? Really good. You're so strong, mate.
Words of encouragement from Zach Dempster for Hyman Arensman, going for double success for one of the better heeled teams in World Tour cycling, and the Ineos Grenadiers squad naturally gets the glare of publicity and gets the brickbats of criticism. And generally speaking, compared to the glory days of the last decade, there have been relatively slim pickings in recent seasons, and Dave Brailsford is back at the helm to try and steady the ship and produce some decent successes for that team. Another stage victory today would go some way to quelling the criticism that's been levelled at the team a little bit. Ten to go. And Frank van den Broek, after his great efforts, has been passed on the climb by Valentin Paris-Fonfeu. Increasingly at the back of this group, riders are in their own personal purgatory, just trying to grind their way to the top of the final four category climb of 2025. Well, the first time Felix Gall, of course, that has to do his own work to try and overhaul Primož Roglič in that general classification situation. All good news for Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard. And Healy, well, this is pretty much the style that he adopts on the bike, a sort of a punchy look, but he potentially on a good day today, or will he be feeling the pinch here a little bit?
I think better than yesterday, by the looks of things. He is riding well. He's been kind of up and down, not solely consistent. He's been brilliant and he's been okay. He hasn't been pretty much in the middle of that, and I think today is one of these good days for him. You know, to be here, the last big mountain of the tour. He looks comfortable enough, and you know he's just in there to follow. I still cannot see Tadej Pogačar winning this stage, and in fact Felix Gall is actually helping him at the moment.
Is Gall going to ride the next, all the way to the contest in the last couple of kilometres?
I think he will. I think he'll continue the ride. I think Pogačar will try something before then. But I think Gall was just thinking about, he's moved into fifth, he wants to gain as much time in Roglič as possible. Roglič is already, you can see in the screen, way down. Because I really like Primož Roglič, but under team orders, that's clearly the wrong thing to do. The next thing is, if Oscar Onley goes on the attack or tries to follow Pogačar and things like Lipovic and Schropp, that's where you need Roglič to be there to be able to help. It worked for them on ball too, but unfortunately for Arensman, he's got Pogačar and Vingegaard behind who won the stage much stronger.
At what point do they start to sort of gun it a bit and try and close down the gap to Arensman?
I think the last 5K, 29 seconds, 28 seconds not enough, but they don't count on Felix Gall riding the way he's doing, because Felix Gall is not trying to win the stage. He just wants to put as much time into Roglič and the others as possible, so he's just riding a GC battle.
The late percent section here, as you can see on the screen. Literally just looked that up, but yeah, it's Mr. Manning Ben Healy just showing signs, perhaps still tracking the wheel of Tobias Holland. Holland in turn, one ahead of him starting the day in 8th position, but he'll move up to 7th. It's a little bit of a stretch potentially for Healy, but you never know. The Bogan group are sure to lose more between now and the end of the day. You'd have to lose 9:26 to this group, to Healy, in order to lose 8 as well. That's Bogan. Well, Felix Gall can't do the entire mountain on his own. It's definitely not his way either, so he's happy enough to put Tadej Pogacar back into command at the head of the chase group. Interesting to see whether we see any slight increase in the pace. Really happy to let Felix Gall slot in there as well.
I don't think Felix Gall should turn his mind to trying to win the stage today now. Roglic is over 5. He's been caught and passed by Voigtland. He has completely gone with the efforts he's made over the last 2 days.
There's a rainbow over La Plana today. No rainbow jersey, but he's got his rainbow bandage cover on, which is
and his shoe soles and his helmet. There's plenty of rainbows.
I can see in evidence here. And plenty of support for the yellow jersey. Bike Mad Nation, Slovenia. What success they've had, and cruising, it would appear, to a 4th victory in Tour de France. One short of the record. Seemingly nothing that double Tour de France champion Jonas Vingegaard can do about it. Turning his attention, we believe, to a bid for stage glory today. Maybe, just maybe, a bid for the Maillot Pois as well. And Healy out of the saddle. An awkward little moment there for the Irish rider after his wonderful first week of racing. We always have Bayeux to Ville-Normandie, his Tour de France. A roaring success from that moment. And then racing into the top 10 on an adventurous day. And he went within just a finishing kick of taking the glory on Mont Ventoux. The Valentin Paré-Pontre delivery. Paré-Pontre up front today. He's behind now. Really cruising along the wheels, and the pace 20 kilometers an hour or more on this climb. There's the scenario as Pogacar and Vingegaard remain welded together. No change between. Well, there you go. You can see Kevin Vogeland's dropped it back behind Tobias Hamlin Johansson, and Primož Roglic now down to 6th.
Roglic could be dropping down to 7th by the end of the day. Maybe even down to even further still if he continues to lose time like he's doing. So Tobias Johansson, it's moving up.
Down to 7.7 kilometers, and the gap up to 36 seconds. Well, when on Super Bagnier, when Timon Aaronsson took his wonderful victory, we didn't really think that 3:45 was going to be enough when he started at the bottom of that hill. Again, we don't really think that 35 seconds is going to be enough with 7 odd kilometers remaining against Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard, but it's still continuing to rise.
Yeah, but Pogacar's in control of this one. He is just waiting, biding his time to make a huge effort like he's done before. So he's just riding up here at quite an easy tempo, to be honest with you. It doesn't look easy for some of them behind, but it is a fairly easy tempo, and it's only a matter of time. I think we'll get to maybe 5 to go before we see another big acceleration. I don't think it was planned further down the climb to go as far out as he tried the first time, but we know he gets enticed into racing and attacking. That's just the way he likes. But yeah, it's painful for Timon Aaronsson, but he's done this before. But I just don't think he's got enough time on the riders behind.
Just on 5 to go, it eases ever so slightly back to sort of 6-7%. Just before that, it's a sort of an 8-9%, sort of 5.5. 6 kilometers remaining. The gap up to 37 seconds. Roglic now 5.5 minutes behind the Maillot group. Spectacular collapse.
Yeah, this might be a good point to make an effort.
Number on. They fired with 7 kilometers to go. Tobias Hamlin doesn't like this much. Felix Gall isn't enjoying it. Ben Healy as well. But Leibovitz, and he's in trouble. And Oscar Onley is the only one again that's able to follow. as this goes deep into the third week and towards a conclusion. Oscar Onley is getting stronger and stronger. He'll have been encouraged by the news that Florian Lipovitz is a little bit slow to recover and to respond there.
Yeah, he has to take confidence from that. I think, you know, it's just a test there. As soon as he accelerated there, Pogacar, you know, the gap came down by a handful of seconds, but Pogacar, he's just, it's like a coiled spring, he's just waiting to go, but Lipovitz was a bit slow to react, but I think Oscar Onley has to look at that and think that, yeah, look, 22 seconds, not a lot, but I think that Lipovitz is suffering still today on the efforts he made yesterday.
Got to think about the bonus seconds on the top of the mountain as well, and Tymon Arensman currently in command of the 10 bonus seconds. That could be relevant at the end of the day in that battle for third, the final podium position, and that white jersey. It's between the riders third and fourth in line here, and Florian Lipovitz so far able to respond, and so far a little bit more challenging for others as detached from this group, Haaland, Gal and Ben Healy has fought his way back up to Haaland. And potentially these riders are going to come back on here because they've settled back into that rhythm. Could be good news as well for Tymon Arensman. When does Oscar Onley maybe think, well, I'm going to be the one that launches the attack?
That's what I'm thinking. He's waiting. He knew that he was given information from Romain Bardet, and I think the information he got from Romain Bardet, because he doesn't know this climb, he doesn't know what to expect, and I think he's given information about when to go. The fact that Lipovitz was a bit slow there has to give Only confidence, but it's just a matter of time now. But I really do think that Pogacar's still in control of this one. 29 seconds, unfortunately, is not going to be enough. Valiant effort, of course, by Arensman. But when, that is the question, is Only going to test out Lipovitz?
I mean, if he attacks first and Pogacar came to him, would that be a strong situation for Oscar Onley?
Or maybe he's thinking that, well, he reacted quicker there. He went with the dynamic duo in this race, and maybe he's waiting for Pogacar to go again and try and go with
instantly follow, stay in the slipstream. More challenging for Florian Lipovitz. Are we going to see a repeat? Meanwhile, Tymon Arensman has lost about 6 or 7 seconds of his advantage as a result of that little excitement delivered by Tadej Pogacar. I feel certain he's about to attack because we're not currently looking at him.
Yeah, I think on this section here before the easies, this is another opportunity where it just kind of kicked up and forced Arensman out the saddle there. So another small opportunity here.
Inside half a minute, meanwhile, Kevin Vogelen alone against the mountain and against his rivals. It's a difficult day for him. He wants to stay in the top 10. Tobias Haaland, further ahead, is comfortably now into 7th position overall. And Kevin Vogelen, Ben Healy is fighting further ahead at the moment. He's probably just a smidgen inside 4 minutes ahead. At the start of the day, 9 minutes and 26 seconds behind Vogelen. So Vogelen's 8th place, I think, at the moment is relatively secure. He's going to have to continue to fight all the way to the top. The leading Frenchman on general classification in Tour de France. The Olympics are coming here in 2030. A little bit of slippy slidey stuff in the winter. Meanwhile, still Tadej Pogacar tapping out this rhythm. So often he's done in the past. Comfortably in control. Felix Gal and friends have slipped, about 24, 25 seconds now behind Tadej Pogacar.
Yes, slightly stronger tempo that he's setting now than he was before. He just wants to keep Arensman, within that 30 seconds.
Coming up to 5 to go. This is where ease ever so slightly, not measure. It's a relatively steady climb. we spoke about how much more demanding it was at the bottom than it is at the top, but it's by no means easy. It's just as we come down into the final 700 meters, things go down to about 6-7%.
It's that silence. We're all waiting, aren't we?
Yes, it's just literally waiting. Yes, pretty much we did yesterday for so much of the final climb as well. It took they were deep into the climb before it happened. Tadej Pogačar obviously believes that he can really quickly close down that 26-second margin to Thymen Arensman. Arensman too. Happy saving matchup. And the gap between the front of the race and the chasers behind counts 200 meters. Even that.
Well, it's going to be a late show. It could possibly be a late show on this final big mountain of the tour. The way that Vingegaard is riding, it's just, as we said throughout this day, I don't think we're going to see any attack for the general classification. I think it's more stage orientated now for Vingegaard. Of course, Pogačar is a king of winning stages like this, especially against Vingegaard. And we've got the Orly Lipovic battle.
Yeah, Ben Haley is in a world of hurt as well, trying to hang on in there with Tobias Halland and Felix Gall being towed potentially to another very strong finishing position here on the mountain. And just maybe, there's a little bit of a game to be got on Kevin Voegelin. And Voegelin on his own is going to find this a really, really tough final climb, alpine climb of Tour de France 25. 4.5 to go. Thymen Arensman, like us, waiting for news from behind. Kevin Voegelin has for company Clement Berthet. Berthet is of some value here to his fellow countrymen, although their own rival teams.
Yeah, this is clear help between the French riders here. We saw in the Giro d'Italia, didn't we? With Dries de Bont.
A bit of trouble for Ben Healy's at the back here. And this is a difficult moment for the Irishman, leaking a bit more time to Tobias Halland here. It's been a brave resistance, but you felt it's coming. Although he'll ride a steady climb, and how many times have we ridden him off in the past, and he's managed to ride back onto the tail of others. Meanwhile, this gap is continuing to come down without Tadej Pogačar launching an attack. He's continuing to make inroads into the advantage of Thymen Arensman, who's looking increasingly weakened by the effort. 4 to go. And still, we wait for the battle between Oscar Onley and Florian Lipovic. The battle between Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard. Maybe, just maybe, Oscar Onley's on for the stage win today.
Well, you still need another 12 seconds. You still need a gap. You can't sprint at the top of climbs. We've seen him do that in the past. We saw him in Wollonga Hill as well last year. So I don't think you'd risk that.
Tobias Halland has a little look over his shoulder and sees that there's some daylight between himself and Ben Healy at this point. Felix Gall alone in his own purgatory, really, and he and the others. When that first attack came from Tadej Pogačar, there was virtually no reaction from almost anyone. Only Jonas Vingegaard, Oscar Onley, and then latterly Florian Lipovic willing to even attempt to get back on terms with this pace.
Yeah, they're all hanging on the Vingegaard. This is just kind of measured. He's set his sight on trying to win the stage today.
21 stage victories in his career for Tadej Pogacar. And for a 22nd final big mountain assault. Opportunities tomorrow and potentially as well for the other jersey on the final day. See whether that turns into a group or whether it is a reduced group sprint finish or whether there's a potential for a right old bun fight on the boots.
That will look like for birthday. Look around to Wakeland. Maybe Decathlon are trying to sign up for next year.
Yeah, Tristan got in a bit of trouble because he said he actually was helping another rider because he fancied getting a contract with that team, which was maybe just a little bit too much information for his own good. 3 to go for your lone leader out front. He's lost about 10 seconds of his advantage, but still making his effort nicely. The crowd's starting to increase in size. He'll get a boost from that. And 1 or 2 Dutch flags in evidence as well here for time and Aronson. And still the quartet stalking, further reducing the margin. Pogacar too will get some extra energy. Leibovitz through that bend. You get a sense of how fast they climb, don't you? That to pick out a bit of a line. Not much room to move up and around another rider. With the crowds at this size and this level of energy and support, despite the difficult weather conditions. Not a huge crowd out in the mountains of Tour de France.
Well, it's going to be the late show. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat here thinking, when are they going to go?
Well, down to 19 seconds. Aronson, you feel, is vulnerable.
Yeah, this looks like a steep pitch now. Ideal Pogacar territory.
Aronson out of the saddle. Will we see a similar response from the riders behind? Gal continues to be stalked by Tobias Howland. Over a minute back at this point. I wonder how far back Healy is from this. Meanwhile, Roglic almost 9 minutes down.
Yeah, he's gone completely. Wrong tactic today. Feel sorry for him.
He could potentially drop behind Tobias Howland and into 8th place overall. He continues to lose time at this rate. Simon Aronson, he's struck out for glory. Right tactic for the Ineos Grenadiers, man.
Yeah, he can't sit and wait. No, Oscar
Only's in trouble here, and this is a huge moment as Florian Leibovitz has moved ahead of his rival, and Oscar Only. A moment of crisis here for the Scottish rider as the gradient grips a little bit. He needs to try and fix this one right back onto the tail of Florian Leibovitz, but it's gone in the wrong direction, really. It's Only that needs to put 22 seconds between himself and the white jersey in order to take over that classification lead. Meanwhile, potentially oblivious to it, Tadej Pogacar continues to set a metronomic and searingly difficult pace, down to 17 seconds. 2 kilometers remaining.
He's still there. Yeah, just to show
you that Pogacar is just kind of ratcheting it up a little bit. You know, Oscar Onley, well, Waves are going to find 22 seconds, but at the end of the day, he's equaling what Robert Miller did in 4th place. I look behind for Lipovic. I think he'll be really happy to see that Onley's struggling now.
Yeah, and he's tempted to go up and over, isn't he? He's really finding this pace manageable. Oscar Onley, not so much, and he's going backwards. So Oscar Onley's bid for 3rd place looks like it's going to come up a little bit short. Nonetheless, terrific Tour de France for the Scottish rider. Lipovic wants to go in the attack and make the most of this opportunity. Maybe stage honours on offer. Tadej Pogacar may be a little bit less interested to allow the young German an opportunity to take that. Really wants this stage victory today. Aronsman's time out front. Well, it's continuing into the final mile of this final summit finish stage of this year's tour, but down to 15 seconds as Leibovitz looks to set the tempo and put further daylight between himself and Only.
Yeah, I don't think he really needs to do this. He could have sat there and potentially looked at the stage. He's already got 22 seconds. The fact that Only was there, he would have been still back. I would have left it, knowing the fact that the white lines there. Ignoring the fact that Pogacar wants to win the stage, if Lipovic has got the legs
ጾታ እንዳመንቀረዩ ሓደ ነጥብ 3 ኪሎ ሜትር ተሪፉ ኣሎ
tactic again to do.
ሕጂ ንርአይና እስከም ናይ ክልቲኦም ውድድር
ኣብዚ ዘሎ እዋን እንድሕር ስፕሪንት ገይሮም ነቲ ቀዳማይ ዘሎ ኣስተሓይሉ
at this level. Meanwhile, Aronson
ሕጂ ክነፍሳ ይኽእል ድዩ ኣይክእልን እዩ እምበር ካብዛ ዘለዋ ስፕሪንት እንድሕር ገይሮም ከመን ኣብ ድሕሪ እዮም ዘለዉ ክፅጉዕዎ ይኽእሉ እዩ ናይ ባሓቂ ግቦይ መጀመርያ ምስ ሃደመ ክሳብ ሕጂ ሙሉእ ፀወታ በይኑ ወዲዎ እዚ ፃዕሪ ዕወድ ዝበሃል ከዓ ንህለኩም ከምዚ እዩ ናይ ባሓቂ ናይ ፃዕሩ ምልክት እዩ ድሓፍዝ ዘሎ hopefully ናብ ዓወቲ ዝጓናፀፍ ዘሎ ሕጂ
ፅቡቅ ፀወታታት እዩ ዘኽርኢና ቀኒ
ናይ ባሓቂ ፅቡቅ ፀወታ እዩ ኸርኢና ቀኒ ናይ ባሓቂ ንፉዕ ተፃወታ እዩ ናይ ባሓቂ ፃዕሩን ዋግኡን ከዓ ርኢሉ ኣምላኽ ማለት እዩ ኦፍኮርስ ሕጂ ናብ 1 ኪሎ ሜትር 21 ሰከንድ ፅቡቅ ፔስ እቲ ምስኦም ዘለዎ ዲስታንስ ማዕረ እንዳሓለወ እዩ ዝከይድ ዘሎ ሕጂ ንቐዳማይ ኣፍሊጥ እዩ ናብ ካልኣይን ክወዳደሩ ማለት እዩ ሕጂ ኣንተዮም ማለት እዩ ዮናስ ቪንግጋርድ ናይ ዳርጋ ናብ ናይ ስቴጅ ናይ ምዕዋት ክእለቱ ናይ ዝሎማ ዓመት ቱር ዲ ፍራንስ እንዳቐሃመ ኸይዱ ማለት እዩ ዓመ ሓንቲ ተዓዊቱ ነይሩ ሕጂ ግን ዳርጋ ብናይ ዓወት ወዲዎ ኣሎ ማለት እዩ ናይ ኣንበሳ ዓቐብ ማልያ ዓቂዋ ዘሎ ኸመን ነጥቢ ዘለዎ ክትልበስ ስለ ዘለዋ እታ ማልያ እምበር እቲ ነጥቢ ጠርኒፎ ዘሎ ቦካቻ ይጠርኒፎ ዘሎ
ሽድሽተ ኣርባዓን ሸዓትን ተሪፎም ኣሎ በቃ ከይዶም ወዲኦም ናብ ሜትር ካብ ኪሎ ሜትር ናብ ሜትር ከይዱ እዩ ሕጂ እስከ ሓቢርና ንረኣዮ
9 ሰከንድ 5 ክስታይ
500 meters or so, and still time announcement. And it is going to be an absolute cliffhanger. Down to 50 meters. Well, what will he be thinking right now? He'd be waiting and waiting and waiting from that reaction behind. But what a fantastic resistance this has been. And unless something extraordinary happens in these final 450 meters, it looks as if Aronson's going to hang on.
No, I think we're going to see a big acceleration from the yellow jersey. He really wants this stage, and I think he's going to get this one.
And still we wait. Down to 350 to go.
Bokacha لما عندنا عوض بمثلان تجميعين يا رجل.
Regardless of stage honors, and into the final finishing cameras.
يجوا هنا بحق. كان نجمع يعني مثلا إنترنت كنت على فم سادمي ساد الجنة.
What would be a famous victory on La Plagne? Looks like it's going to come. Or will they be chasing behind? Still no reaction from Tadej Pogacar. Jonas Vingegaard finally launches behind. Here comes time and Aronsson into the final moments of this 19th stage of Tour de France. Jonas Vingegaard.
Jonas Vingegaard sprint Gerolo.
Kilo Vingegaard.
Time and Aronsson. They're banging the boards to bring him home. And yes, he can hardly believe it. He's done it by the narrowest of margin. Jonas Vingegaard finally finishes the stage out of Tadej Pogacar and Florian Lipovic fourth across the line. But Time and Aronsson had enough in hand. But finally when the reaction came from Jonas Vingegaard, it was too little, too late.
Vingegaard تعويت خلاص درجة رهيبة. ما قرأت عنه خمس خلاص كله.
Remarkable happens in the next couple of days. But nonetheless, a great first Tour de France, a second Tour de France, and great for glory.
دارجا مسكور تناي قدام بحاجة للسلزات وصاهم جزء سلزيل نورمال تفكيرات إنرجي قوة
and a stunning performance from Time and Aronsson brings him a second stage victory.
No, well done, Tim and Aronsson. Like you, I was waiting for an acceleration from Pogacar. It never came. This is what it means: 2 stage wins here in the Tour de France, but. I think he hasn't even left it too late. He was when's Pogacar, I'm going to fall, I'm going to try and beat him in the sprint. Both of them left it. That was a strange finish, but apart from that, great job by Tim and Aronsson because he kept on believing. I never even believed it, to be honest with you, into the final kilometre. I was just waiting for that big acceleration. So well done, Tim and Aronsson, in winning your second stage.
Well done, Felix Gall as well. He's going to move up to 5th place overall. As a result of his 6th place on this stage. Austrian rider.
تعال زغر مكانه ها
زود ولا حنتي نايز ودي إنرجي فولي
فولي حيل تولا
أنا ما قولي تبلع ولا أنا لا يسد أنا أرد أني إمبرس أنا حيل يزلو
يمنشو نداري يمنشو سوبر باور مالتكو
تذكر ما كانت أواي طعم كستاي بقول تتعاطي يفرحن يكبر يفتون فولي عينه كستاي زلو تتعاطي لكن زي كورات قتلتي لما أنتي أدعينا لكم زنبرنا مدبابزي ودينا لنا أبناء صباح كنا هاتي رهبنا بروح مشهد